What is going on, everyone? How you all doing? Welcome to another Warski Live. I'm here, of course, with JF as co-host. How you doing?
I'm doing very good. Andy, you're having such emotional crisis at a rate that I cannot follow. At this point, I just have to update your Twitter to learn about your most recent emotional outburst. I didn't even have time to watch it.
Yeah, I had a little bit of a breakdown, but I'm good now. I'm good. And you need to break down to climb back up. Am I right, JF?
I don't know that it's a good philosophy to live by, but it seems to be yours.
I just like to look at the, half glass full. Basically, that's how I roll. Now, so I got a DM from David Sherratt. What's going on, buddy? How you doing?
Hello?
Yeah, and you seem to have some ongoing issues with alt hype. Is this correct?
Yeah, we've had some spats every now and then.
Okay, and you wanted to challenge. You want to challenge alt hype, and apparently this has been a long time coming. So let's just get everyone, introduce everyone before we start. David, what's going on? If you want to
Before we go for the
sure.
introduction, for history, I would simply mention this was a debate that was set on Baked Alaska's channel 1 month ago. We are stealing it. We're just taking it from Baked Alaska. No, just to be clear.
I just spent half an hour freaking explaining to
Because today is the day where Andy burns bridges. He burned
No.
Jeff Holiday. He burned bridges with Blair White, and now we burn bridges with this.
Blair White, she burned the bridge. No, shut up. She burned the bridge with me, and I don't care about that. I'm done with that. I'm over Blair. But with Baked, he had said this apparently a month and a half ago. I had no idea. I don't keep his schedule on my desk.
I think there's a little bit more context as well, is that Baked then got flagged before this stream was going to happen. So that's why I believe Alt Hype and Sean Last came to you about this.
That's what happened. And I had no idea this was previously set up. I thought you were all just asking to be on this show. JF is just being an asshole and trying to make me look like I burned more bridges. I spent half an hour talking to fucking Baked on the phone yesterday. Being like, no, man, I swear.
You're giving him a shout out here. Yeah,
so, I know.
This is
Jesus. Apparently, there were some problems on Baked's channel last night. One alt-right member doxed another alt-right member on the show. That's what I heard.
No, I think they just talked about the doxing on the show. The doxing actually happened on the show.
Yeah, it happened on Gab, I believe. There's been a bit of a dox war on Gab.
You can call it alt-right. It's really just like mental instability going on with that. Well, that's all it is.
It's just a fucking shit show, basically, at this point. So let's introduce all our guests here. We'll start with you, David. What's going on? Do you want to introduce everyone in the audience to who you are?
Hello, I am David. I make fun of Nazis on Twitter. There you go.
All right. And who did you bring here with you?
This is Drallasta, and I think you can
introduce
yourself.
Yeah, I'm Drallasta. I am a YouTube scientist TM at this point. That's about as much as you can go for it. Yeah, screw it. Go on from here.
Hang on. You have a history too with JF, don't you?
Oh, we have a history. I've made as many videos on JF as I have alt hype, so we can go for that.
Oh damn.
So one question that's still on my mind is that a trans or not? Because I think I called her a trans.
You called me a trans, did you?
I think I did in the crowd war. I think I called you a trans. Are you a trans or not?
A singular trans instead of a multiple trans. That doesn't make any sense.
I'm not asking you if you're a train. I'm not asking you if you're a train. I'm asking you if you are a transsexual. Do you have a penis between your legs?
For the next 2 weeks, yes.
Oh, you're getting it changed? Oh, okay, interesting. All right, so you're trans. Cool.
Just to go into like really morbid detail right now about.
All right, do you want me to pull up the papers one second? Like, they're right here. Let me just.
I believe you. I believe you. I'm not I'm not
No,
doubting
no,
you.
no, 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 no.
Oh,
I
no.
don't want to hold this.
No,
Yo,
that's
I don't
not
wanna
what I
get
wanted
flagged.
to initiate.
So,
I
are you showing
I
a
just
picture?
wanted
No. We could go for pictures.
I just
Hey,
wanted
don't make me
to
excited. Don't make me excited.
Okay, so I'll introduce myself on the alternative hypothesis. It's me. Everyone look at me. So yeah, I've been on here before. All
What's
right,
up,
yeah.
all hype? How you doing?
Thanks for throwing in the cold shower all time. Now, Sean.
Yes, I'm here with Ryan, the alt hype. I helped build some of the hate facts collection on the website, an occasional pusher of race to pseudoscience, and that's about it.
All right, so Altype and Sean have been for a long time defending a scientific, realistic view of race. And now the question is, what the fuck do these people have troubles with? David, Sherratt, and Drallasta, what's the problem with race?
What's the problem with race? Well, so you'd have to define race first. What is race? Go on. Before you start that.
Altype and Sean last.
Well,
I mean, I don't think we need to sort of like autistically define race.
Define it on biological lines then.
I mean that society over time, these racial categories have developed as they have, and so the social categories of race that have developed, at least in the United States anyway, and most of Western Europe, correspond pretty well to certain ways of modeling the genetic structure of human populations.
Yeah, but you can manipulate genetic structures to show whatever the hell you want, pretty much. There is a lot of genes, and you can mess with them pretty much however you like.
I mean, obviously, I mean, not literally however you like, but it is true that you can group people in many different ways, right, on the basis of genes. Like you could talk about blue-eyed people, and in a sense, that would be a genetic grouping of people or something like this. I don't think that's problematic, though, right? Like we can just group people in lots of different ways depending on the way that's useful in a given context.
I mean, I could find a genetic correlation between British people and Japanese people and go, boof.
You could do that. But the thing is, when you have clusters, it's not just like one criticism would be like, oh, use ancestral clusters, and so they basically find what you're expected to find using ancestral markers. But there's actually been studies with random SNPs, just literally like feeding random slices of genomes of population samples, and they correspond with self-identified race. It takes more genes than using an ancestral loci, but
I'd have to see it. I'd have to see it.
Well, the funny thing is, I actually mentioned that in my. I actually brought up that paper in my article on the existence of race that Kraut went over like seemingly like 10 different times or whatever.
I haven't read it.
Well,
I think I've seen a glimpse of it.
You can go to that article and just do like a control F and random SNPs, and it'll be.
Actually, I recall. I haven't been like entirely paying attention to the race realism debate as strongly as a lot of other people, but I actually do remember in one of the research calls that I'm pretty sure is somewhere leaked online. I remember one of the geneticists, Jajone, was talking about this. It was something like 9 SNPs, wasn't it?
9
9 SNPs?
No, they're talking about the Piffer paper. That's not about the genetic structure of race per se. That is about 9 IQ-related SNPs that differ by frequency of race.
Yeah.
So,
it's also worth saying, though, that Piffer paper, that's from 2015 and 2017. Piffer has a more recent analysis out with more than 100 of these SNPs that have been related either to IQ or educational attainment.
So I think that we're getting lost here, and the structure of the discussion is completely getting destroyed. The first point is, do you guys, David and Drallasta, recognize that there are differences genetically between groups of people that normally people think of as race? That there are differences between what people think of as black people and white people in America, for example?
Ooh, you can try and isolate the different groups. But then you can kind of isolate loads of different groups depending on what you're looking for.
Are you saying that if I look at the genome of a black person, of someone who self-identifies as black, and the genome of a self-identified white person in America, that I will find that I cannot make predictions about the genes that I will find, that my predictions will be completely random.
Okay, Sean King and Sean King's
I'm not
mom.
saying completely random, but I'm also saying that you will not be 100% correct all the time.
All right. So now
that's true. You won't be 100% right. Genetic structure in the United States matches on with self-identified race somewhere in the neighborhood of between like 95 and 99% in terms of accuracy. So not 100%, that's true, but it's pretty freaking good.
Yeah, and the people who, and like the fact that it's not like 99.9 something, this is just my speculation, is that you got like some guys who are just being cute saying, you know, I'm black or I'm like Cherokee or something retarded like that when they're actually like clearly something else. Like
then you might have people who.
But those are marginal.
But then you might have people who are only like descendant from like three of their great grandparents are say African American, and they've descended from them, and they've taken those genes that make them
Sargon out of this. Sargon out of this. Okay, so now. Yeah, I think the like okay. Here, let me put it like this:
trait markers you inherit.
Yeah, well, let me put it like this: like the reason why like this is kind of like what is race is kind of silly to me is that you have, first off, you have just sort of the naive perspective that people have when they just sort of look at the world. They come to, you know, the quote unquote race realist view, and then, you know, we do cluster analyses, and it doesn't really matter what genetic markers you use. If you tell these computer boxes, say, make 7 to 9 categories out of this genetic data we're giving you, and the computer doesn't know which one is Asian or black. It's just binning it into categories, and these categories correspond to self-identified race like 95 to 99% of the time, and so it's like. You know, when you're at that point, it's sort of like, what more do you want? You know, it just seems like
if you want to find something, if you're looking for it, you'll probably find it.
But the hell of it is that they're not. Like you say, they like that's the thing about these cluster studies, that they're saying bin it into 7 or 9 categories. They correspond with the old timey races. They don't correspond they don't correspond with like the tall race versus the short race or anything like that.
So what you're saying is that there are 7 to 9 races. So there's not an arbitrarily high number of races.
Yeah,
there's
how many races are there?
genetic data. There's genetic data, and it clusters. And
how many clusters are there?
I think this is sort of like asking how many colors are there in the world.
How many colors are there?
Yeah, that's a good question.
It should be an easy to answer question.
It's a retarded question.
But you figured out what races. Shouldn't you know how many races there are? If you've got
it just depends upon the context in terms of what is going to be the useful way to categorize people. It depends on what about people we're trying to predict and explain. Well, sometimes it'll be most useful to talk about Eurasians, other times European people, other times English people, right? The level of aggregation changes, but that doesn't in some way invalidate the conceptual scheme.
So what you're saying is that the definition of race changes depending on what you want it to be.
No.
I'm saying that sometimes it's useful to split groups up into ever more narrow categories, right?
Yeah. So the number of races can change depending on how on how you want to categorize data. Well, I don't see why there is this one concept of race then. If you're going to say, okay, in this situation we're going to have, I don't know, 7 different categories, and in this case we're actually going to think that actually no, we want to have 17 different categories.
Yeah, in practice, that doesn't happen. In practice, that doesn't happen. Like, I mean, people will
practice. How many categories are there?
Between 7 and 9. Like in reality, like when you're actually going around the world and dealing with people actually interacting with each other, that's what actually happens. Like the thing is, what people will do is they'll say, like, well, in the 1900s, Francis de Bibowitz said that there was the Polish race and the Irish race and the French race. And like that's cute, but that's like Francis de Bibowitz probably would recognize race as we conceive it today if he were around today. So, and like today, like, like we're not talking about, we're not
talking about up into different categories. So I mean, I saw the JF What is White video, and you can get those kind of clusters to look at like English, French. I mean, are you saying that English and French aren't separate categories now?
Yeah,
all my video means is that you can divide races in further subcategories. In the same way you can divide colors in subcategories. You can say that red and blue exist, but you can also recognize that there are many tints of red.
Yeah, here's another thing. The Japanese used to not have a separate. For Japanese, they used to not have to differentiate the color blue from green. They just had the color aoi, Romanji aoi, and it's not until like and it's only been recently that the Japanese, not recently as in like the past 200 years, that they've separated the colors blue and green. So you could say, well, there's a subjectivity of color there, and how many colors are. Yeah. Sure, but then to say there's no such thing as green and red is just retarded.
Well, that's not what we're saying here. We're saying that people can be different colors, but it's kind of arbitrary.
Okay.
This is like being subjective.
This is like the
arbitrary, though.
This is like
one distinction.
This is like the
subjective and it being on a scale, and that scale being kind of completely.
Yeah, where the lines are drawn is difficult because you're not. I think the thing that needs to be mentioned is when you're discussing that.
And don't you guys say that gender is on a spectrum?
I don't say that.
Well, a lot of people in your camp do say gender is on a spectrum, no?
Okay, let's just talk with her. Let's not talk with her camp.
Yeah,
her camp.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
Because if you start saying, let's talk about what is said.
I know David has said
that. I'm going to be in really big.
I've never met her before, but I've met David before. I've heard you and your pals talk about how gender is a spectrum. Sort of very similar to what your theory is on that. Right?
This intervention by Andy was sponsored by
was sponsored by the
I'm comparing what he has said before
to
currently right now, because you guys are acting like race doesn't exist because you could split black into many types of black. That doesn't mean that there isn't black, because we could walk in the mall and see a black.
Yeah, but where do you draw that line? If you can draw the line, say between like 7 and 9 different races, well, the problem is then some people are going to be in different categories depending on whether you have 7 or 9.
Well, it's like saying Jamaican, African, whatever, blah, blah, but then they are all in the black camp, right?
Yeah. Also, like when going from 7 to 9, and I'm just going off of memory here, but like I think when you go from 7 to 9, basically what happens is like there's actually like a cluster that emerges like in like northern Pakistan or something weird. So practically speaking, it's not really that important, when you get.
All right. So here's one for you. So how do you explain the high genetic diversity in Africa then?
Lots of things.
They're the oldest.
They're the oldest. Why would that be hard? There's a lot of genetic drift. Yeah, if you want to make the argument that Africans should be subdivided further, I agree. I think I agree with that. I think, but the thing is like when we're talking about the reason we talk about we compare genetic data to a lot of sociological data, and the sociological category is Black or African. And so we sort of have to treat that as one group.
But they fluctuate genetically more. So surely dividing them into, then that there is like then one white and then like 14 black races.
Can I just ask, since when did biology start using the sociological definitions and catering to that? That's not how science works.
He didn't say that he was using the sociological definition. He said there's some data incoming that is just marked sociologically. We don't have the genes of these people when we do vast studies on economics or in North America that are not genetics. No, it's not a problem.
No, it is a problem, but Sherratt's trying to say like, therefore you can't say anything about the world, right? Because you don't have a perfect one-to-one relation between like the real biological categories and the sociological categories. Like, and that's just like
if you can't explain the biological categories using the sociological categories, then
you can't. Well, you can.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not perfect. Like,
no, it doesn't work at all.
No, what do you mean?
It works like you turn around and say white, black, but there's more black categories.
Like all the predictions, like that the evil racists made, like in terms of making predictions, like all the race realists like kick the ass of the creationists. So like if you want to say
the race, all right,
it works very well.
The race realists kick the asses of the creationists.
Yes.
Well, then why?
I mean,
are you
fundamentally,
using
all of these arguments
sociological
about
level-
like how you guys think categories are supposed to work, these like abstract ideas about how categories are supposed to work that don't map onto how categories actually work, none of this changes or calls into question in any way the idea that people who are primarily descended, for instance, from Europe and people who are primarily descended from Africa can differ in mean allele frequencies in ways that are socially important, which is the sort of driving force of race realism.
Well, not the melanin thing, but
No, I'm not talking about melanin, obviously.
Of course, I would very much disagree with that. That's the driving force of race realism, but
you don't think that's the main point?
And
Groups
what I'm
differ in
seeing
allele
here
frequencies in ways that are socially important?
a lot of these seem to be just
no,
sort of-
we're pathological race haters.
David's been
That's
trying to
what we
talk for a
are.
while. David, go ahead.
Okay, so there's apparently these alleged these alleged studies that managed to take lots of
A study is not
I haven't
alleged,
seen them.
David.
I'm
A
just-
study
I'm just
is
saying
not
that-
he's
done.
alleging the
Let him
study.
talk.
Okay.
Let him talk.
No, but what you should say is there's these studies that I don't know about.
No. He's these studies I don't know about that Alt Hype has just said about. Yeah, go on, David.
Yeah, there's just a claim. There's no proof yet. So, okay, so there's these these alleged studies that have managed to use computers to sort out DNA into different categories and cluster them from the social category of race.
Kraut went over these in his second video attacking my article talking about that. So when you say alleged, it's like okay. Anyway, go ahead. Say make your point.
So how do they actually categorize? Take me through this. Do you understand how this works?
Yeah, so it's called a genetic cluster analysis. The idea is that this is being simplistic, but it has to be simplistic given the nature of this medium. What happens essentially is that a computer program goes through a huge number of iterations of sorting each person into a predefined number of clusters. And what it's trying to do is maximize the within group genetic similarity and minimize the between group genetic similarity. And through these iterations, through a process of computer learning, over the more iterations gets better and better at doing this, right? That's the basic criteria by which cluster analysis is grouping people genetically.
Yeah, and it can do it on the basis of either random SNPs, as they say, take these SNPs, or then it can say, take these entire alleles, these entire gene variants, right? So there's different levels of chunking you can base the clustering on. So and the hell of it is, like it doesn't matter. That's like I show multiple methods of clustering. Like it literally doesn't matter, how you do it. They all show the same thing.
So it is. I mean, since we're talking about methodology, the other somewhat similar way to get at the genetic structure of species is going to be looking through parent principal component analysis, and that is somewhat more complicated, but that shows basically the same thing in terms of corresponding to traditional racial categories.
Yeah, basically the principal component analysis is another way, and the way it works is it takes all of the genetic variants and it seeks to give you the best dimension through which you can see the most variance in the population. And naturally what this mathematical operation does is essentially sorts out within a 2D view some of the best genetic info. And if you can see a distinction between your groups based on the two first principal component analysis, what this tells you is there is a potential genetic test that would allow you to say for sure this person is French or this person is of English descent.
Most likely of.
Well, if the principal component analysis leads to per clusters, then it would not be most likely. For example, in the distinction between, in the study that looked at the distinction between American, let me finish. In the study that looks at the distinction between American whites and American Jews, they conclude we could do a test that close to 100% tells you if someone is a Jew or not.
This is inevitably, like, this is basic evolutionary population genetics theory. This inevitably results from breeding populations.
Not, because you say this, and then you bring in mixed race people, and it kind of just shoots everything you've just done out of the water. Because all of a sudden, you've got people who are like a quarter this, a quarter that, an eighth that, 16th that, and it fucks up your fucking study completely. Because
Yeah.
Why?
No. Why? Why?
Aren't
Why?
necessarily English even a few generations back. Maybe they're mostly French, but they've been brought up in England. All of their grandparents were brought up in England, so they see themselves as English.
We can
Okay,
actually see the traces of that.
Okay,
No,
but we're talking about two different things there. You're talking about like what they identify as culturally or whatever, and we're
Yeah, but that's what
versus,
you're
like,
comparing
genetic
them to.
clustering.
Those are the two things. You're guessing their thing, and then you're comparing it to what they identify as or where they are. And both of these.
No, I'm talking about their race. Like a black, like first, like someone like a black person in Britain doesn't think he's white. Like I don't know.
Well, either way,
and when you talk about, and also like a black person is not going to say, yeah, I have like English ancestry going back to. Oh wait, I don't. Like,
but genetically, you can be like 1/8 black and still look black, because that's just how the chromosomes worked. That's how that's the chromosomes you received from the.
Okay, sure, right, and the correspondence between self-identification and best fit cluster is not 100%.
And there you go. See, that's why that's why it's not 100%, and that's why these studies don't work.
Yeah, there's a reason.
They work.
This
Like,
having
bizarre.
like,
What are you talking
European,
about?
European far right circles, the 56% Amerimut meme.
right.
Is because this whole idea that like I self-identify as white in America, you probably only saw to like 50 to 70% white DNA.
No,
actually, no,
that's not it. That's not true. But the thing is, here's where I think that comes from. The European, like all of Latin America, from the border of Mexico to the Straits of Magellan, is about, in terms of like raw genetic admixture. Like the thing is, Latin America is so massively admixed. It's about 56% European. That whole, all south of the border is about 56 European by pure genetic admixture. And most people coming from Mexico are like are between 60% European, 40% European, stuff like that. So that's,
so Mexicans
I think
aren't white.
I think that's the origin of the meme.
So
well, they're heavily admixed. They're a heavily admixed population. Right?
So are you saying that America isn't a heavily mixed population?
Less than Mexico. Like less than Latin America.
Okay. Yeah, and self-identified white people in the United
Mexico
States, on average, their European admixture is over 90%.
Right.
So how much of these genetic markers are functional?
Well, that depends. If you use functional markers, it actually becomes easier to sort by race because of the effect that natural selection has had amplifying on top of the genetic drift differentiation between populations.
But the non-functional markers would mutate faster. And it's quite a short time period. It'd be easier.
A short time period for what?
Short time period is in like 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years. It's a short time period. You want to go with the fast mutating genes.
Well, the degree to which functional and non-functional genetic markers are going to differentiate groups is going to depend upon whether or not they are more differentiated by genetic drift or natural selection. This is just
there you
true.
Go. That's how it.
And there are empirical analyses of this where you look at whether or not the mean FST of functional or non-functional markers is higher. Functional markers have higher mean FST values. This is a fact about human population structure.
Well, it depends, because it depends if that marker is evolutionarily favorable or if both of the population.
No, but as a rule,
yeah, but this is going to be most genes. Most genes are going to have this. You're going to have the same gene, like most of the time.
Okay, like you're
completely
European.
Well, obviously, we're talking about polymorphic genes.
Yeah, so exactly. So most of the time, these genes are going to be evolutionarily driven depending on the environment that they're in.
So right. Well, and that's precisely why you get. That's precisely why you get so much phenotypic variation in humanity in such a short period of time.
So how come there are so many white people in Las Vegas?
What?
What
does that even mean?
I think she's saying that there should be more black people.
All right.
It's hot there.
Okay.
Well, I got Andy to laugh.
I have a question for Drallasta. If I had a medication and I test it, and I conclude that normally 100% of the people would die with that particular disease, and my medication works 99% of the time. Would you be here saying, this whole article doesn't work, it only works 99% of the time, this medication makes no sense, there's no truth related to that medication?
No, it works 99% of the time. It seems to be pretty good medication.
And race categories seem to be pretty good categories.
You're comparing apples to oranges.
I'm not. I'm comparing your threshold for acceptability of scientific facts. And it seems to vary.
You're comparing something that is 100. That you're comparing something that is possibly true to something that can help people 99% of the time.
Yeah,
but would you say it's a true statement that the medication works?
This is an entirely different situation. You're talking about a function of something that works 99% of the time, and something that when we're discussing like the efficacy of a category, these are two completely different kinds of discussion here.
So would you say that that placing the medication into the functional medication category is a fallacy, a false statement?
Well, it's functional for what you want it to do. I mean, most medications are
exactly, and race categories are functional for what we want to do with them.
No, because they don't work.
What do you mean?
At the end of the day, they don't work.
Could you define your criteria for racial categories working and then justify that criteria? I think that would probably be a productive thing.
Ooh, so racial categories working. So there needs to be a very set degree of differentiation. There needs to be a set degree of differentiation between the separate groups that you want. And we're talking very decent separation to the point where these two separate categories have a less of a chance of breeding together, and provably less of a chance of breeding together. That's kind of where this taxonomy goes.
That's true. I mean, you mean breeding together? Like, that's actually true. I mean,
oh, I'd love to see
your criteria is met by races.
I'd love to see that study.
I think that
you don't need a study. There's like census.
At the end of the day, races work for what you want them to do.
I'm confused by what you. So obviously, white people are more likely to mate with other white people than they are non-white people in history.
Is that because? Is that because there is more white people around them, or is that because?
Right, yeah, so in evolutionary biology, this is called isolation by distance. It's one of the main mechanisms of subspecies.
It's geographic isolation. It's this one of the main.
Yes, that's the basis for a lot of genetic differentiation. That's not a problem.
Yeah, but there isn't geographic isolation here. That's not the discussion that's being engaged in here. When you're suggesting that there is an actual, when it's less likely to actually breed and mate, we're talking about an actual like function of actual like fertility, aren't we?
Yeah.
If that's the case,
if that's the case, then like subspecies, the most.
Yeah, I mean that's how. Yeah, it's just not how subspecies work. It can be geographic isolation. The issue is that there isn't geographic isolation.
There is a degree historically, ancestry of isolation by distance combined with certain barriers like oceans and mountains, combined with a degree of cultural isolation that has led to co-ethnics being more genetically similar than non-co-ethnics.
Yeah, but we're talking about the two different drivers here. So we're talking about evolutionary drive towards having darker-skinned people in hotter places or more sun-ridden places, and the spread of genes. So the fact that they are geographically isolated is more that there are evolutionary powers pushing people in hotter, more sunny places to be darker, and people who are in higher regions that is less sunny to be lighter skinned.
But
it's not that they're isolated.
There is
an evolutionary drive.
I see what you're saying there. Travel as quick. If two black people move up north to the Antarctic, right, and have a baby there, the baby will still be black because of their genes.
Well, it depends how. Yeah, but eventually there'll be.
But we're not talking about it in an individual sense.
But we're just talking about.
No. If we go with an entire colony up there of black people and one white person, say 99 black people, one white person. At the end of the day, the person with the white genes are more likely to be selected for because it will be evolutionary advantageous.
No, but if two black people live,
not actually. Actually, not past a certain distance, because lighter skin is only selected for in a certain range. Once you go really far north, it's actually better to have darker skin because of the reflection of the snow.
Well, yeah, of course. Yes,
I mean, I was just skin color. Like
for the question.
Indians are very dark. They're not Africans. Their race is not just skin color. Let's not be silly about this. Africans are people who descend from Africa.
Okay. I don't know what.
So what are black people then?
Antarctica. I fucked that whole thing up.
Wait, no. So what are black people then? If so Indians can be black then.
No, I'm saying Indians can have very dark skin, right? I'm saying that the black category refers to people from Africa, not just people with dark skin, because there are dark-skinned people who are not from Africa.
Why would you call it the black category then? Why don't you call it the African category?
They're used interchangeably in society normally.
No,
like white, like the term white, like Japanese actually on average have whiter skin. Japanese actually have whiter skin than Europeans on average. Yet when we say white, we know we don't mean Japanese. Like,
well, is that because that's a sociological reason, not a biological reason?
Yeah,
that's just the name of the category. You could call it
language to discuss biology.
Yes, you use language to discuss biology. You could call
you're using arbitrary labels to try and hide the fact that you have nothing on this biology here. You don't know what you're talking about.
We have like 90% correspondence with these labels.
We don't know what we're talking. Okay, well, how about this? Can you give me a criteria that is normally used as a justification for subspecies that races do not meet?
That races do not meet the decrease in fertility. Direct decrease in fertility.
Fertility is not a normal criteria used to establish subspecies.
Yes, it is. You don't know what you're
not that kind of fertility. The way in which there's a decrease in fertility normally, again, is primarily through geographic means. Yeah, that's still a decrease in fertility, and there isn't a decrease in fertility because these groups, there is no barrier between.
Yeah,
there is no barrier.
There are geographic and cultural barriers.
And
there are geographic. Yeah, there are borders. There are borders and there are oceans. But the thing is that people are traveling across those. That there is a commingling of people. People are moving across them.
To some degree. That's fine. Africans are still more likely to mate with Africans than non-Africans, and they have been for basically all of history.
Like, yeah, and the thing is,
this is the mechanism. Like, what the fuck do you want?
Drallasta's gone.
And the subspecies in other animals, they also are reproductively isolated, but not in a perfect way. And sometimes these subspecies will breed. And I recommend you read Jerry Coyne's Speciation.
They sometimes breed. Yeah, we're talking about a decrease in fertility, not a complete shut off of fertility, because that changes.
We tell you that we observe this decrease in mixed race couples. There is this decrease. There is less frequency of reproduction between whites and black than there is between whites and whites. So we observe this in humans. And I will point out that the book Speciation by Jerry Coyne is a very good book. I recommend it. And he mentions that geographical isolation is just one way in which subspecies can specialize. There is also selective isolation by merely the fact that some animals prefer to breed with animals of their color or of their characteristic.
Can you show that's true then?
Yeah, you look at the book of Jerry Coyne, Speciation. There's full of examples of reproductive isolation as opposed to geographic isolation.
All right. So what if this was true?
What if
this all is true?
Okay, your categories are completely legitimate. We don't actually have a definition for a black person, but let's say you actually you've given us one.
Right, we don't have this idea of someone primarily descended from Africa. No, that's just, we don't know what that means because we're retarded. But the next step here, right, is to talk about these socially important differences that are mediated by genetics between these groups.
All right, so we know what black people.
May I ask one question to Drallasta? Sorry, how do you say it?
Yeah.
Drallasta and David.
Just before you ask your question, there's a super chat from Garm93, 50 euros.
Thanks, brother.
There was 14 to 100,000 years worth of geographical isolation, time enough for divergent evolution, and not something you're gonna wash away overnight. Go ahead, Andy.
Okay, I want to ask is, I know there's race mixing and genes that are on borders and all that stuff. So there's variances of what we would call Asian, black, white, etc. But you guys can at least observe that there are different races, right? Like when you're at a mall, you can be like, that person's Asian. I don't know if they're Japanese or Korean or fucking Chinese, but they're somewhere, or Japanese, but they're one of the four. You could tell at least that, right?
But then you've got to ask the question. Of course you can, but then you've got to ask the question.
Race is real. That's my point.
No. Well, sociological race is real, sure. But then you've got to ask the question.
No, that's visible. That's observable race.
Let me finish. Are you seeing that because your brain is very good at seeing faces? Or are you seeing that because that thing is very obviously real?
Here, let me try a second thing here. I'm going to screen share here. Okay.
We've done this before.
Here we go.
This is not going to persuade them. This is not going to persuade them.
Okay, look. This girl in the middle, is she black?
It's not.
She's not that dark.
Okay. Oh my god. Oh, they can't even say it.
No.
Asian.
Of course she's Asian. It's not going to help.
She's probably Chinese or something, right? Not being racist.
If she makes a baby, will the baby be Asian?
She's probably Malay by the looks of her. Like,
okay,
you really
how about this guy right here? How about this guy? He's a white dude. Maybe Portuguese, maybe Irish, right? Something like that. This guy, probably from Africa or Jamaica, either or.
But that guy who you've just called Portuguese could be North African. You've got no idea.
Okay, fair enough. But chances are he probably isn't. Let's be honest.
Oh, he could be South African.
South Africa. I know one guy from South Africa who's white.
We're talking about the ancestry.
He could be
Syria. How about this?
He could be a Las Vegan. You don't know. I mean,
the point is, this guy's not Japanese. This girl could be Japanese. That's my point. Observable differences.
It's not going to persuade me.
No.
I'm just giving the layman's view of this discussion.
This is the layman's understanding of a sociological definition of race. It's not the.
Well, actually, I mean, this concords fairly well to what historically was a common one of the criteria by which you actually established that subspecies is a valid category in a given species. This was often referred to as the 75% rule, whereby you analyze a set of phenotypes, and if you can, on the basis of phenotypic analysis, correctly sort organisms in a species with a 75% accuracy or higher into these designated subspecies. That's not the only, but that was one of the traditional criteria, in fact, to establish the validity of a subspecies taxonomy. I know that you guys have this weird antagonism towards actually concording with anything that has ever been involved in actual subspecies biology, but that is a thing.
But that's not Star Trek, Sean. It needs to be Star Trek. Otherwise, it's not real.
It's real.
Science has to be Star Trek. So. It's not about correspondence.
What does Star Trek have to do with this?
Well, Star Trek is the threshold of evidence that crowd and people like you are often asking. It's like you're not happy with the 99% correspondence. You want lasers. You want to know what's the functional role of the SNP, when in fact the SNP alone qualifies as a group characteristic. The definition of race in many dictionaries is simply groups that differ in some physical characteristic. And the SNP is a physical characteristic that happens to be inherited.
Calling
I know it hurts. I know science hurts when it comes in. The difference between a scientist and a layman is that the scientist takes it in.
Yeah, Drallasta is a scientist. Actually still in academia, fam.
That's the difference between a layman and a scientist, is listening and believing, apparently.
What?
So, okay. I mean, at this point, if you guys convinced people that there aren't people that come from Africa, good job. I don't think it happened. Do we want to move on to talk about the differences between races?
Good job, nice job, man.
Hang on. If they're right, if they're right,
out of Africa.
Just saying.
Whatever.
If David and Drallasta, so I keep getting how to pronounce your name, and Drallasta are right, then black people have to stop bitching about fucking slavery. Am I right?
No, because sociological race is real.
Slavery doesn't matter.
No. This is how it works.
Too, because I might be
Again,
black. You don't know.
No,
Worski, I don't believe.
Andy. No, it's like a shell game. Like race, it's sociologically real, but it's not biologically real. So basically, anything bad that is happening, because race isn't real biologically, it's just it all has to be environment, and so they can say race is real when basically they can go back and forth. It suits them.
No.
But then
Is it too hard to? Is it really too hard to take the you've just explained the concept that sociological race is real and biological race isn't, and then you've managed to then somehow misunderstand that concept.
No.
He was.
No, I'm saying I don't agree with I'm saying that it's a stupid concept. Like, let me put it this way: it's like this is, I think, sort of a fallacy for a lot of like sort of shit libs people, is that they imagine that the reason people don't agree with them is because they don't understand them. Like, I understand all these stupid.
It's not.
I represented it in a way that you don't agree with, and you say I misrepresented it because you believe in.
It's not a straw man because I said
environmental
it was
journalism.
But
you are censoring me.
I was explaining to Andy. I was explaining to Andy how they'll use race while saying biological race doesn't exist. I'll say
sociological race exists.
Yeah,
maybe
it corresponds. Yeah, in black instead of black people.
Maybe
so does
I have oppressed
so does the
blood.
biology of race.
I have oppressed
we've
blood.
already
Maybe you
explained
don't even know that.
On the earlier question, which really was not answered because we moved back to the original subject. Now what? Now what? People would differ by gene. I will even use the conditional to ease it for you shit libs. People would differ genetically. These genetic differences would induce changes in behavior and changes in physical characteristic. Now I can use this knowledge. I can use the fact that from looking at someone, I can be 99 or 95% accurate on whether they have descendants from Africa or Europe or Asia. And I can make choices about whether I want to reproduce with these people, whether I want to build nations with these people, and whether I want to live around these people.
Well, you don't get a choice on quite a lot of those. So you don't get a choice on whether you want to build a nation with them, because you don't get to decide who the citizen.
You don't get to personally decide everyone in.
Do you recognize that immigration exists and that I can choose the country I immigrate to, and that I could, for example, decide not to immigrate to Botswana?
Well, you can decide to set up your own country, but I'm pretty sure it's going to get invaded pretty quick.
I'm talking to you about immigration. For example, do you recognize that based on the data that I could gather from people, I could decide Botswana is not a good country for me?
You could decide that if you don't like black people.
All right, that's one. And then
that's most white people. Like, if you by their actions,
most white people don't like black people.
Yeah, by where they choose to live.
No, it's not. The reason that most people don't move to a different country is because it's actually difficult to still entirely change your entire where you live, and the culture.
Even if you take those people who chose,
this is completely inefficient.
Yes, but culture and economy are not independent of race, for one thing. And also, even within the United States, you look at residential segregation, you look at who people choose to form voluntary associations with, friendships, mating patterns, all that. It all speaks to the same revealed preference.
At the end of the day, it's not the main driver, even if you can say that.
Okay,
but human behavior is complex. It is a large number of causes. I don't know what the main driver is supposed to be.
We're talking about economics here. So the main driver for that would have been we're going to why America is.
Okay, you could say okay, hold on, Sean, let me say this. You could say it's not about race per qua race, but the thing is, what we're talking about is there's different traits between races on average. Right. And it's those traits that people are selecting for. Right. So they're going to. So basically, the white people are going to hang around with the white people because white people act like them. And
not necessarily.
Not necessarily. And this is
what? No, this is what? No. This is actually true. This is actually residential segregation and school lunch segregation. This is all studied. This is true. I don't know what you guys are saying. Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
Hashtag not all. always.
This is a giant hashtag. Not
even within
But a lot of the
race,
times,
right? When you look
yes.
at people's friends and their marriage partners, they're more genetically similar to their friends and marriage partners than they are even to random members of their own ethnic group.
Yeah, but surely that is a disadvantage to want to be with somebody who's genetically similar to you.
Why?
No, actually, if you look at no, not be okay. So it is if you talk about an extreme level of genetic similarity where you see a lot of recessive diseases occurring. But actually, so for instance, there have been studies looking at this, and you often talk about marriages, and you say people are more phenotypically similar on average to the people they marry. Well, it turns out that if you arrange those phenotypes by heritability, marriage couples that are very similar on highly heritable phenotypes tend to do better relationship-wise than those who end up sorting each other on phenotypes that are low in heritability. And a general genetic similarity predicts longer-lasting friendships, things like this. This is generally not supported. That within the range of normal, human interaction, where you're not like fucking your brother or something like that. As it turns out, genetically similar communities tend to work out pretty well.
I would not believe that instantly. Mainly because how easy is it to tell the difference between? How easy can you tell siblings? It's not always easily clear. But
Wait,
so
you mean
telling how genetically similar to someone is to yourself isn't easy.
Oh, that's definitely true. What happens is people sort with each other, though, on the basis of behaviors and physical traits that we consider important. And as it turns out, because those traits are highly heritable, the result of that is that people end up with people who are abnormally genetically similar to them. This is called assortative mating, right? It's a very common thing.
But Drallasta, are you questioning the ability of the studies to figure out if they're genetically similar, or people?
I'm questioning their ability to read studies, which I have done in the past.
Okay. Nice, but on this particular question, are you asking whether or not the people doing the studies can tell if people are genetically similar, or are you misunderstanding? Because we're not saying that people go around and ask for like, hey, you're genetically similar to me, let's be friends. No, that's not what we're saying happens. We're saying they're friends with people who have similar traits, and as it happens, the people with similar traits tend to be genetically similar. Right? That's how it actually happens. So
yes, but is everybody always looking for a sexual partner that is similar to themselves?
Yeah,
most of the time, yeah,
95% of the time.
Only within like a certain range, and I think that range is a bit bigger because actually, from what I know, when it comes to things like pheromones and stuff, people are actually they do actually tend to be attracted to people who have very different immune systems to them. So that's not entirely true.
But then
that is true, but that is not representative of the genome as a whole. That's like a very specific outlier that sort of proves the general trend.
And we would see way
another thing,
even prove the trend.
Yeah, even among
it proves that. Well, I guess I should explain that a little. That it proves the trend in the sense that one of the reasons why the sort of biological psychologists talk so much about this is because of the fact that it differs from the norm of human behavior, which is to mate with people that are abnormally similar to you.
Right. And even like mixed race couples, like they are actually more like on like all sorts of like heritable traits, even like weird things like finger length and stuff, like couples like a black and a white marrying each other. They tend to be abnormally similar, genetically similar on a lot of these other traits than two average white people are. So
I mean, this isn't even some weird racist stuff. It's just like basic social psychology.
Even like mixed race couples.
That's why I'm not arguing against you. Because at the end of the day, this is kind of just piffy stuff, and you're like, what does this even mean? Does this even prove anything?
It seems to be kind of irrelevant.
It's spurious, irrelevant shit.
Well, we've been responding to you this whole time, so.
And it's highly relevant.
We've just kind of been like, what?
People choose their mate based on physical characteristics they notice, and these physical characteristics are due to genes, many of them. So that's just, you asked, why is it that we can use the knowledge from race science in our lives? Well, partly in mate selection.
People don't just choose their partners on physical characteristics. What?
Exactly.
Yeah, well, let's be honest.
Well, mental characteristics are heritable too. So
yeah, the real. Okay, let's not pretend like we know the reason we use like this race science stuff. It's because of immigration and basically immigration and arguments about welfare use and like oppression narratives, right? That's what this is all about. It's not about like.
And
it's
mostly about the immigration question. Let's move on to that. I think
and welfare and the oppression narrative, the idea that certain races are oppressed because they're poor. It's like, well, no, it could just be genes, right? Like that's
at the end of the day, you're again assuming my political position, and I just don't care for you to assume that.
How wealthy are you, Alt?
Well, no, I'm not assuming you're.
I actually do.
I'm talking
how
about what this
are you?
is about. What? Shut up.
How wealthy? No, I legitimately.
No. My answer to you is shut up. It's none of your business. That's
all right.
That says you're poor. Bad genes. Bad genes. All right.
So, Drallasta, what is your political
I'm almost
position?
certainly wealthier than you. So, whatever.
What is your political position on race?
On race? What is my political position on race?
Do you have any political idea that could use the concept of race or deny the use of the concept of race?
You shouldn't use the concept of race in politics. As a driver for political gains. It seems to be a sort of, if you use politics,
you need to tell that to a lot of black people.
If you're using race in law, then
you need to stop. Here's what you need to do. You need to stop talking to white people about that, and you need to start talking to black people about that. Because white people are the least likely to identify with their race as one of their top identifiers.
We're not doing like Twitter threads about these.
But you are. Like,
we're not. We're discussing with you. You are actual white nationalists.
White nationalists. No, like you're talking like on your channel. It's white people.
Racial segregation.
It's white.
Like you're arguing as if we're American, and neither of us are. You don't speak to black people.
But in Britain, nationalist, by the way, I'm not a white nationalist.
Okay, buddy, in Britain, this is true in Britain as well.
I'm just clarifying because you know how Twitter is. In 5 minutes, it's gonna be fucking.
Okay, thanks, Andy. Okay, so no, in Britain, like the people who are most racially identifiable and racially block up and treat politics as an exercise of racial power, it's all the what you call the Asians, your improper, use of the word Asian, and the blacks and whites are the least likely to self-identify as race. And so you're saying, well, I don't think race should be used in politics.
I know what
and your focus here is like, well, I'm talking to the white nationalists.
I know what graph you're using, and I know that graph you pulled up was bullshit. Because I watched the video, and it wasn't on race; it was on ethnicity, and they're not the same thing.
No, it was about identifying with race, and in this study, it used the word race as one of your top three identifiers for your person.
I'd have to see it again. I mean, I'm not gonna freaking go searching.
And also, and moreover, here's another thing. It's not just one thing.
Like I don't.
It's a highly replicated finding. I
don't think this is necessarily a relevant point here. Because let's grant your point that on average there are that black people are more racially conscious or something like that. That they're more willing to use race in politics.
Mm-hmm.
Well, This isn't like granting a point. This is like a true thing. This is not a point. This is not a granted point. It is a true.
Oh shit! 1 sec. We're still live. I'm still sick. Let me jump back into that call. My bad, people. Luckily, I didn't exit the thing. This flu is killing me. Oh, God. Hang on.
What should we talk about? Hello, Andy.
We jumped offline for 1 second.
All right, are we back on?
Oh, we're still live. We're still live though. Nothing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're still live. Sorry.
We're off air.
I had a massive.
You're in a different YouTube account.
Yeah, I don't know. It logged into my other thing, but I had a coughing fit because I have the flu still, and I must have hit a button. So sorry about that. My bad.
All right,
Okay,
and
so
we're
still going.
live right
Still
now.
going.
Yeah, we're still
Okay.
live. We're still live.
So
We're still live.
during the pause, while we lost connection to Andy, we were discussing we're gonna have our barbecue. Me, Drallasta, All-Type, Sean Last, and David Sherratt. We're gonna eat burgers and talk about race and our racial preferences in mating. Go ahead, David.
I hear you like Asians, JF.
Oh, I mean, I often use this as an example. That's just a way to illustrate that, yes, there can be legitimate individual decisions that are based on race, and there is a taboo about talking about it. So I always joke about it, saying I like Asians. I do appreciate the Asian female body, but I'm not as much of a fan as I often display. And I know that there are heavy costs for the lover of the Asian pussy, which is the Asian female mind that you have to live with after.
I love Asians. I had yellow fever for a while.
Shout out to all Asians.
Yeah, I had yellow fever for a long time. I dated a chick who was Asian, but then she went crazy on me. And then it turned me off for a little bit.
Exactly.
It turned the fire down. Yeah.
Poor Chris.
Yeah, well,
Poor Chris.
Yeah. No. Him, like he made me like Asian people a little bit more. He saved the Asians for me. So.
He's one of the good ones.
Yeah, I went racist for a little bit, but now I'm fine. Don't worry, I'm good. I like Asians again.
Oh, you got over it? Okay.
Yeah, no. I was thinking maybe I should hate Asians more.
You caught the racism, but had some chicken soup, and now you're fine.
So we'll go to David Sherratt, who was about to say something, but we have Augusto Pinochet with a $100 US donation. God. He says, you people jump from point to point when suffocated by logical argument, data, refutations. You dodge the whole drug/race and functionality analogy, speciation, FST distances, cluster. If you accept subspecies in animals, you accept races in humans. End of discussion. And hollow words, 50 pound. Handicap sign leftists, handicap sign intellectuals, handicap sign coming, handicap sign true, handicap sign. So David, you were about to say, suppose that we grant this idea of race and the idea that for example, black people are more racially aware, as you framed it.
Yeah.
So what were you
they're
about
more
to
racially conscious and more and more open about using race in politics. That doesn't necessarily mean that A, that we shouldn't be having the discussions here, or B, that necessarily that they are causing the most harm with this. There are forms of like I am of the position that there are forms of racial politics that are less harmful than others. Like if you just say if you're just like tweeting about how shit white people are on Twitter, that doesn't really matter. If you are stabbing a black guy in broad daylight because you want to start the race war, that might be a bit more of a problem.
Yeah, but that like never happens. In fact, it's more often that the black guy stabs the white guy.
No, that has happened.
That has literally happened.
I'm saying it hardly ever like. Do you know what like numbers are? Like oh my god. Okay.
So what Ryan is trying to say is that statistics are on the side of black people killing black people and killing white people more than the opposite.
Yeah, but that's not because of racial politics, though.
Yeah, that's not because of racial politics. We're discussing a very specific kind of racially motivated crime, not purely crimes in general. Like, there's a lot of just, like, economically motivated crime or drug-related crime and stuff like that.
The economically motivated crime is probably a myth, and we know this based on like when the economy gets poor and people generally get poor, like crime actually goes down, both property and violent crime. And also like there's also studies that they do multiple regression analyses and actually find that when you like control for a whole bunch of stuff, poverty actually negatively correlates with violent crime. And one of the controls, of course, is race. So in terms of like a causal factor, poverty probably has a opposite causal effect in terms of criminality. So.
Yeah, that is one hell of a bad sounding statistic.
Yeah,
you can say that. Like you can say that.
You can assert statistics on this.
Asserting it now.
Yeah, you've been asserting constant studies and statistics and stuff. But like you can do that all you like. That's a gish gallop. We can't just go through every.
No, I just responded to your economically motivated crime. Like I was literally responding to you right there. and saying that you're probably
okay.
wrong.
So okay,
And I will
they're
point
doing, okay, but that's not what you were talking. That's not what I was talking about. I was talking about crime that isn't necessarily motivated by racial hatred.
Yeah, it's hard to get at statistically the number of racially
all the
motivated
black
hate
people that are
crimes.
shooting, I don't know, that are killing white people on the street. They're not killing them to start the race war.
You don't know that. I mean, like,
No, seriously.
like what we know for sure is that they're killing white people more often than the reverse. There you go. That's what we know.
Yeah, and there are individual examples of it going both way. Like I said, there aren't like high quality statistics on the number of hate motivated murders by the racial pairing of them and things like this.
No, I think the SPLC has high quality statistics, and all hate crimes are.
Yes, that's why I say high quality.
Yeah,
statistics.
the SPLC isn't a good source.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
All right, so there's this thing where black people are more racially conscious in general. Non-white groups tend to be more racially conscious in countries like the United States. Many of these racial groups, blacks, for instance, tend to also underperform economically. This turns into politically mediated conflict whereby they extract resources from white people to give to them, right?
Yeah, but that has a long historical context, don't you think?
Yes, they've been doing this for a long time.
Yes, they've been.
Slavery. They were just extracting resources from white people.
Actually, there's it's a very roundabout, very autistic way you could say that's the case. It's not a direct.
Well, this is.
You could say that's the case.
Oh, that's amazing.
Let's not.
Amazing. I love that.
Let me put it this way: the South was probably poorer than the North because of slavery. That's basically the argument. All right, and it's not. Of course, you can't. Now, of course, I'm not gonna say how dare those black slaves be slaves in the South. Like but it's just, you know what I'm saying. But it's not okay. So,
but yes, slavery happened. We're aware of this.
Yeah,
Jim Crow happened. These are things we have heard of these things, as it turns out. What would you like to say about those things?
Well, you don't think that those have had some kind of knock-on effects, then?
No.
But not that are present today.
Okay, so every single black person that was, say, denied a job before Jim Crow doesn't have now relatives who are economically in a worse state because of that.
No, like I don't think so. No. Like the thing is, we can look at the black-white income gap over time. Like especially like, let me put it this way: like the narrowing of the black-white income gap did occur from the 1950s to around 1972 when it stopped narrowing, but like that had no correspondence with the end of segregation.
But are you assuming then that there is no systematic like systemic racism within the system? That's the right one, right?
There was, but the question is whether or not the net effect was. No. I'm saying when talking about segregation back when there were like laws saying, this is anyway, during the Jim Crow years, like you could say that sure, their businesses were allowed to not hire blacks, but another thing that happened, is that black small business ownership, black business ownership collapsed at the end of segregation, right? And so there's like when you're isolated and you're only buying from other black people, you have sort of like there's an advantage to that. Like you're sort of a closed economy, and you're allowed to, and you're able to sort of build up sort of your own productivity because you have kind of a localized monopoly. Like you can't go to the white theater, so you have to go to the black theater, and so there's a market for black theater owned by blacks.
But this could easily force a lot of black people into the center of cities, which are statistically poorer than everywhere else.
But
if there's only one, if you're in a town,
I don't know what this has to do with. Like segregation applied to rural areas too. I don't know why.
Well, yeah, exactly. So if you're in a town of like 200, 300 people, and there are like 10 black people, one of those black people has to set up a shop. Or they're just all going to move into a middle.
Actually, the segregation patterns, for example, in Mississippi, were such that blacks actually have entire rural counties that are majority black in Mississippi and stuff like that. So it's not everywhere. But the thing is like blacks being you know, what you're talking about, like not enough blacks for like sort of a critical economy of skill. First off, when there's only 10 blacks, there's usually not segregation because they're not a problem. Like if there's 10 blacks out of 10,000 people, there's usually not segregation anyway. But they might leave just because they don't like living around white people and go to cities.
They'd probably leave because they can't. You know, they're getting, you know,
yeah,
they end up getting pushed into different. They're getting pushed out because of these Jim Crow laws. They get pushed out. They're getting pushed into inner cities.
Yeah,
I think there's a sense in which Jim Crow
items that they can buy.
Like I don't know, like maybe sometimes, but when we're talking about like the net economic effects, you have to understand.
Sometimes
sure,
this is called the Great Migration. I know enough about American history to call this.
Yeah. When a bunch of blacks moved to the north,
they moved north. They moved into cities.
Yeah,
sure. And another thing when talking about okay, like when you say segregation had a negative effect, the biggest piece of evidence that people use is the narrowing of the black-white income gap when in the years that segregation
I'm
ended.
Not using that. I'm using.
This isn't 1970. It's plausible that segregation had some effect on the income of people then. But we're talking about the differences that exist today, presumably.
Okay, well, let me put it this way: if the narrowing of the black-white income gap between 1954 and 1972 is
not using the narrowing of the income gap.
Well, then what are you using? Then what are you using? What's your evidence?
Using direct racism of forcing people into the inner cities, and inner cities are poorer. And they are still.
They're not. No, they're not. No, they're not. Inner cities are not inherently poor. It's not like some law that
But they
became poor when you fill them with blacks. Like when black people move in, they turn it into Africa. But like they're not inherently poor. Like Copenhagen is not.
Do you guys deny that the Great Migration, like many of these large cities, right,
yes,
like Detroit, like Chicago, very famously used to be wealthier before they experienced this demographic shift.
And you don't think maybe the segregation still occurring at the time may have had something to do with that? Because you remember, if you're implying
they're moving. No, the reason they moved to these states is because they did not have segregation laws.
You're assuming that they're not racist because they don't have segregation laws.
Yeah, there was still some serious racism.
But their wages increased. That's why they moved it.
Personally, I think that it's more
important. It doesn't necessarily make it perfect. It doesn't necessarily make it make them instantly equal to white people.
It's more important, I think, to talk about what's going on today than what happened in the middle of the 20th century, unless you have some empirical evidence that what happened.
This is the conversation we're having.
Let's have this conversation. So you guys asked for the evidence of genetic divisions within humanity. What is your current scientific evidence that racism is the cause of the lower income and black populations in America?
Didn't say that.
We didn't necessarily.
Okay, so you don't claim that racism is what keeps black down in America?
No.
Possibly.
It's not necessarily that.
The thing is,
not
okay. So I was sitting here, like I was trying to Iron Man your argument. Like I was saying, okay, so the most common piece of I was trying to Iron Man your argument because you're saying, oh, segregation. It's like, oh, so they're thinking the effect of segregation. They're going to obviously reference the narrowing of the black-white income gap.
You're arguing against your own point again.
Yeah.
I'm arguing against exactly. Yeah, because your point, because you have literally no argument.
That's a straw man.
Yeah, you're just arguing
it's an Iron Man. No, it's an Iron Man.
No, I mean, that's not.
No, you're literally below. You're like below, like basic, like HuffPo.
This is ridiculous. Just say just restate your hypothesis, because clearly there's been some confusion.
At the end of the day,
they have no.
I don't need a hypothesis to argue against you. Yes, you're the one with the hypothesis here.
Here's a hypothesis. The economic difference that exists today between black and white people is largely the result of IQ differences that are partially genetically mediated. There's a hypothesis.
That's what you're arguing. That's what we're arguing against at the end of the day. There you go.
Yeah, and we've got to argue this historical context because that does actually play a part in this.
Okay, but then you said, this is why it's circular.
Just give us the empirical evidence that the historical circumstances play a role in the modern racial economic differences.
But they have none. They just say segregation
let's
happened.
ask them so they can say they have none.
So do you think
they won't say it.
Where are you
Do
going?
you think a rich family just like every time that someone's born into a rich family that they're suddenly just like like whenever someone's born they just start a Monopoly game? Everyone starts on the same playing field.
No, obviously
Do you
the
think-
socioeconomic.
No, it takes
Okay,
like 2
there's a few-
generations. It takes like 2 generations for it to go back to like
to
the
reduce
genetics.
down to about 10%, and that's still 10%. You can still, and at the end of the day, it's 10% of them still have their wealth. It's not.
Okay,
it's
but this is confounded by genetics. Like the socioeconomic status of a family is correlated with their genotypic intelligence, self-control, this sort of thing. If you look at twin and adoption studies,
You can't just state this without the fact, without.
Okay, well,
Okay,
we do
we can-
the study,
calm
twin
down. Oh my
studies,
God.
twin adoption studies.
So
Sean,
do
tell
you-
them about the twin adoption studies.
Twin adoption studies. Are you going to know what twin adoption studies mean?
Yeah. Yes.
okay,
yes.
so yes, partly, right? There are twin and adoption studies that attest to a genetic correlation between parental socioeconomic status and genotypic IQ. There are also polygenic score analysis in the last couple of years that does this as well. This is not controversial in behavioral genetics that there is a genetic correlation between parental socioeconomic status and IQ. And moreover, let me finish real quick. This is what I was about to say before. If you look at twin and adoption studies of socioeconomic status, if you model that as the phenotype, what you see is that in adulthood, in fact, the childhood home environment accounts for very little in the way of variation in adulthood socioeconomic status in the contemporary United States.
So, how are you controlling these twin and adoption studies? Because they aren't controlled studies. You can't control humans. It's at the end of the day, you can't do this. So you've of course got massive sample sizes, but you don't, because you've got about 80, 90, 100 maybe. Freaking, if you're hopeful there. The issue is that these aren't controlled and these aren't statistically sure. And you can't start, you can.
Could you explain to me what
you want?
So what do you mean? Could you expand on what you mean by controlled?
Controlled? How can you control a scientific study?
I'm curious about what you mean by that. I mean,
so you've got to control the environment because you're trying to isolate it down to genetics, right? But then you've of course got to isolate it down to the prenatal system as well, which you can't do.
You have that's why you have the adopted twins.
Yeah,
we don't even need adopted twins. So I mean, do you understand
conditions that are different as well? And then you've got to control the environment as well. So you've got to have your control.
Yeah, they're not going to purely have a difference in just socioeconomic status. They're also going to have a probably a difference in diet, in education, in the kinds of friend groups they have and socialization they have. They're probably going to have a different, potentially different cultural upbringing.
Sure, but these are all. But you're just making the socioeconomic status argument. Like all those things are binned in with socioeconomic. That's basically like when people who know what they're talking.
It's not necessarily.
When people who know what they're talking about make the socioeconomic status argument that higher socioeconomic status people have better environments, they're not saying, oh, they rub themselves with money and it makes them smart. No, they're actually like those things you mention, like basically just being around better people, having better diets. That's literally what they mean when they say higher socioeconomic status. They mean.
I would disagree with being with better people having better diets, because actually it would really depend on the individuals.
And people with higher socioeconomic
okay, but we're talking about
diets.
Oh my God, we're talking about like these statistics anyway. And so when you have twins, like you ideally you put them in as close to as representative a sample of homes. Right, or if it's not representative, like since adopted offspring tend to be put into a higher socioeconomic status home, you try to statistically correct for that, restriction of range, and try to overweight the low.
Is one of the hardest things.
Overweight the low risk, yes. What? No,
it's social economic status is one of the hardest things to control for. It is stupidly hard.
No. It's hard to control for in adoption studies, like in not statistically though. Like
it's
because so many things. The distribution for twin studies into adopted families tends to be skewed to higher socioeconomic status. That's fine, but you still have some in the low. But you still have some in the low socioeconomic status cohorts in those adoption studies. Not as many as represented for the whole society. And so all you have to do is you have to weight it properly. You just weight the lower socioeconomic status in a way that is representative
the
of
issue
the whole
is
band.
weighting. It doesn't work. You've got to come up with a friggin' decent system. And I speak to a psychologist who has to control for socioeconomic status, and he moans about it all the time because it is incredible.
Okay, well, you can moan about it.
Not only
Well, you
that,
can moan about it all you
there are
want,
also, though, there are twin and adoption.
So.
Okay, there are behavioral genetic studies that utilize like total population cohorts in Scandinavian countries where it's a perfectly representative sample. You also have the same thing there's one in Scotland that was administered back in the 40s. There are like not only representative samples, there's literally like population data, behavioral genetic analysis of IQ that gets around this problem entirely. And there are, and we said, like, yes, you can measure socioeconomic status. I don't like, do you have an argument for why the normal measures of socioeconomic status do not like have a very high level of measurement error or are not valid measures of what they're trying to get at or something?
It's difficult to control for, and you've already said that you'd have to weight it one way.
Well, I know you keep saying that, but okay, let me put it to you this way. Suppose that we take parental education and we take parental income and wealth, and we look at the wealth and education of their parents, and we go in and have a home inventory and look at the educational stimulus of the home, and then we put all that into a factor analysis and take out the largest component of covariance and those things, and we use that to control for socioeconomic status. I just want you to explain to me why that is a really bad way to control for socioeconomic status.
Why is that a bad way to control for socioeconomic status? Because
yes,
I'm not a psychologist, I'm going to be honest, and I am terrible with statistics, so I'm trying to come up with a... fuck me. I'm going to need help here.
Okay.
I'm not a psychologist at the end of the day. I don't know what...
You know what? Why don't you know what you should do? You should get somebody who is a psychologist to actually come on, do something like the...
Fine. At the end of the day,
actually, you are doing a good thing here by actually coming on, and not being so culty with like the no platform thing that people like ContraPoints and H Bomber guy do. So I want to commend you guys for actually sort of coming into the wolf's den. And how much better would it be if some of like the people who actually on your side, who at least say they do know this stuff, to actually come on? Because this Worski platform here,
don't want to take you seriously.
Like this Worski.
There's two things.
That's nice. Well, they can do that, but the result of them like not taking me seriously, I'm just beneath them or whatever. The result of that is that like things like Worski Live become a quote unquote alt-right hangout when it didn't used to be, because like you guys aren't showing up. Right.
I
mean, that's just...
if we could talk about
Ryan suggested that we bring
It wasn't at first. It's become that way because of the no platform policy.
No, it became that way because of blood sports. Money in these things. That's why.
Ryan said we should bring in...
You can do quote unquote blood sports, but the thing is, like, you just don't show up.
It's just branded. That's all it is. Like, this format has existed on YouTube for years. People have been fighting online. We just called it blood sports and have a few channels that have promoted each other in the genre, and people are pissed at it. But it's been happening forever. People who are bitching about blood sports did blood sports before it was branded this way.
Yeah, but how long has Super Chat's been out?
For years.
Okay, that's not what people.
I had Worski Live 1 from 100 when it wasn't blood sports for like a year and a half, and that like helped me the entire way through. It's been like 2-3 years almost now.
And Ryan mentioned that we needed to bring a psychologist in with competence on this subject. I just want to say Dr. Papa JF, PhD, is here. If you need me, just ask.
So you talked about socioeconomic status, and okay, fair enough, you need a psychologist. You also talked about the prenatal environment. I'd like to make a comment on that very quickly, which is that so one way to talk about this is that sometimes, most of the time what happens, right, is that monozygotic twins share a placenta, dizygotic twins don't, and people think that this results in monozygotic twins being more similar than dizygotic twins, and that twin studies sometimes misattribute that to genetics rather than the sharing of a placenta. That's fairly easy to check, though, because even though that happens most of the time, that doesn't always happen. You have diplacental monozygotic twins. It happens about a third of the time, and you can compare, for instance, the IQ similarity of diplacental monozygotic twins to placenta of monozygotic twins. This is a bit of a mouthful, but basically, you can compare the IQ similarity of monozygotic twins that do and do not share a placenta, and what you find is that this does not result in them being more similar in terms of IQ, suggesting that that sort of prenatal violation of the twin study design is not pumping up the heritability. It's not you can test that assumption, and it's validated in most of the research that tests that.
I don't think she made that argument.
No.
Well, she talked about the prenatal.
I mentioned
Sean is making the argument for her and then beating the argument.
Well, because I assumed, okay, if you meant a different method of action, that's the most common method of action by which people say that the prenatal environment invalidates twin studies. If you have a different method of action in mind, go ahead and explain it, and then maybe I'll comment on that as well. There is another one, but I'm assuming that's not what you're going to say. But go ahead. Like, what is the method of action you had in mind then, if not that?
Sorry.
I think it might be worth moving to a different topic because we're clearly not in a position where this is going to get moved forwards. We've been going in circles quite a bit.
At the end of the day, it's the I have these studies, and do you? Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
What do you want us to do? Yes, our worldview is like on this topic is largely revolving around research.
Well,
this is something that a lot of people don't believe.
So here we go with why blood sports is terrible, because at the end of the day, you can claim all of these studies. And calm down.
Blood sports. This is not halls of debate. We've
got no way of proving or disproving these studies without actually having to see them beforehand. I haven't seen any of these studies.
So you're saying
well, first off,
you're saying blood sports would only be good if it was all scientific and like halls of debate, like
no, that's not what she's saying. It's not what she's saying. No, Andy,
this is why blood sports is bad to take.
But you're the one on blood sports. You came in.
That's not what she's saying. She's saying she doesn't. Okay, Andy. She's saying that she can't read the studies in like 5 seconds.
That's fine. That's why we have part 2s and 3s. But we're not going to shut you down and say
this is why like scientific debates are not we don't do like YouTube live stream debates in science. We do peer review.
Well, they do. Like they do
YouTube live debates.
Sure. They do not necessarily on YouTube, but between scientists who like know the field inside and out, they will be able to like cite studies at each other, and both guys will know all the studies.
They'll have a set of studies that they'll give out beforehand. And
no. What I just said about the prenatal thing, if either of you guys had read a reasonable textbook on the psychology of IQ, you'd already be familiar with it. This is not esoteric stuff. This is just
at the end of the day,
stuff
if you wanted to have a set of studies beforehand that you can only cite from those studies, we swap a week beforehand. That's probably
we can do that for a part 2. I
think
we can
do that.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
So that's why blood sports is good, because we're reasonable as well. We let people bleed, but then we help them out as well.
Talking over each other.
Reasonable.
Okay. All right. So.
And one of the co-hosts jumps in every now and then.
That's what it is. Welcome.
Hey, let's give him a third. Next time we'll give him a third. It'll be JF, me, and Sean versus the Sherratt and the train and whoever. You know. Okay, so one thing that Sherratt likes to do, he likes to call people Nazis a lot.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay.
So, and one thing, and that's actually why, like, I sort of I'm not really like interested in like people saying, "Oh, black people don't exist." That's just kind of retarded, and we've been talking about that. And it's kind of dumb. But the thing is, you like to call. You call people Nazis.
Aren't you the
okay, yeah. Didn't you used to have a channel called White Socialist?
No. Actually, you know what? That's funny. You know what? Let me tell you. Okay, I hear that, and here's what I think happened. I had a channel way back in the day called Confederal Socialist
Confederal Socialist. So you're a socialist and you're a white nationalist, National Socialist.
That's very cute. That's very cute, Sherratt.
It's very cute, but it also says exactly
everything. Guys, Confederal. What does Confederation mean? Right? I was a mutualist. All right, and so I said,
"At the end of the day, you're American," and it kind of.
I said. That's nice. Okay, I was a mutualist back then. Okay, and the thing is, Confederal Socialist, it's kind of an edgy way to say mutualist. That's what that was. And all my videos at the time were about like the emergent order of the stateless society and polycentric law. That's what was all on that channel. I was not pro-Confederacy, and I'm definitely not pro-Confederacy today. So, and also, what does that have to, I don't know what that has to do with like Nazi, right? Because when you say Nazi, like someone is a Nazi, Millennial Woes is a Nazi, what does that mean to you? Like he's a supporter of the NSDAP?
He's an anti-Semitic white nationalist. Generally, the rest of it tends to be minutia. Otherwise,
okay. So the problem is, now here's an issue here. This is me gonna be citing a study here, because and I actually think I have this. I can give it to you. But there's actually a survey that was done by like this American Jewish Congress, and they did a poll of whites in the U.S. And what they found is that about 90% of them, this was in 1943, said they would rather lose the war with Nazi Germany than end segregation. So, and that's something that's always, and that's an important thing to consider when people say, "Oh, you have the views of
What
people
year?
of you have 1943, like you have the views of
About
the,
the Holocaust at the time.
you have the views of the people who defeated the Nazis. Therefore, you are a Nazi."
Yeah, but
Like,
they didn't know about the Holocaust at this point. Like,
what does that
when
matter?
When America came into the European theater, a lot of American
Why
soldiers
is
were.
why is that relevant?
No, keep with me here. So a lot of American soldiers were kind of a bit woozy about, are we fighting on the right side? And then they found out about all the concentration camps.
No, they were not.
And
That's
then
not
they
true.
thought, oh shit, yes we are.
That is not. No, there's no the general public in the U.S. was anti-Nazi like in the mid-30s. Like they were like 80% anti.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh no, it wasn't.
No, it was. It was. They were overwhelmingly
Considering
anti-Nazi.
that there was
like, the whole war.
there was an attempt, there was
no, this is like actual. There's actual polls.
Coup.
There was
highly planned fascist coup in America in the late 1930s.
Yeah, and you know what else? You know what else? In the 1990s, David Duke and Don Black planned a coup to overthrow the island of Dominica in Operation Red Dawn. Like, so what? Some nuts planned a coup somewhere. That doesn't reflect
Wasn't
anything.
some nuts, dear. That was Congress members involved.
What do you mean? Okay.
Okay, the more fundamental point here, though,
Like,
is that historically there have been lots of people who were white nationalists and anti-Semitic who were not Nazis.
Right. And that includes basically the majority of the population of the United States. Not as for anti-Semitic, like I'm not even particularly anti-Jewish. That's one of the reasons why I don't like this alt-right thing that sort of grew up around me, and now apparently I'm alt-right, which is even better because my channel name is the Alternative Hypothesis, so people think alternative right, but it's actually not. That name actually came long before the alt-right meme even was about. It's actually a group blog that Sean and I were working on. But anyway, I don't want to.
One of your background pictures in your videos is a symbol of an SS division.
Yeah, and
23rd Hungarian SS division.
Yeah, the Hungarian SS division, Maria Teresa. And actually, I saw that from a person. The thing is, like, I hang around a bunch of people in the alt-right, right? And so there are a lot of people who identify with the Hitler regime. And so I saw somebody with that picture, and I thought, oh, that's a nice picture. And so I used it on Facebook. And then when I sort of came back to YouTube, and then when I
hide your dog whistles, and you didn't do it well enough this time.
Oh wow!
What do you mean? Like, I took it down.
Ryan is dog whistling to Nazis.
I'm dog whistling, like,
and it looked great. It looked really cool. And I just
I
took it down. Nice picture. I'm not actually a communist.
Yeah, because you realise how bad it looked and how I've been caught in my trap. Oops.
Except
you were caught.
No, I mean I'm not sure how much.
This is, yeah, you guys don't know anything.
Done plenty of videos against Nazis throughout the years. That's made white nationalists who are pro-Nazi mad. This is a very weird idea to anyone that's familiar with the channel. That the Alternative Hypothesis is a secret Nazi channel.
Like we've been doing.
The
thing is, we've been doing. Like the thing is, Sean. The thing is, me and they did have a weird race cult, and they had anti-scientific views of race. They actually sort of poo-pooed and actually Sean knows about this, so maybe Sean could talk about this. But for me to defend myself, look, if you know any history about me, like I have been like overtly against this sort of conflation between the Hitler regime and white identity, like from like at least since 2011, probably well before that. Right. So like this idea that I'm like secretly pro-Hitler is just absolutely retarded. I made a mistake using a picture of a flower that I thought was nice. And then and now in fairness, I did find out that it was an SS division flower while I was still making videos sort of to Kraut. So I did know about it for a few months and kept using it. So, okay, you could say shame on me or whatever, because I didn't bother to make a new picture or whatever. I just kept using it. But like, it's not like, oh yes, I'm a big fan of Hitler's plan to exterminate 1/3 of all Russians or something. I mean, that's retarded. What do you think that means? Do you think I have some secret desire for Germany to control Russia or have an empire that goes to the Urals or something? Like what is that? Like when you say Ryan Falk is a Nazi, like what does that even mean?
Well, I didn't say you were a Nazi.
No, not you, the shit rat. What does the shit rat mean?
All right, Stoodles.
Or should I call you the race mixer?
No. The shit rat's making the claim, not you.
Hey, if we're gonna start using nicknames, don't want to go down that road.
Okay. That's nice. But just tell me, what do you mean by Nazi? Like, what is that? Like you said like anti. Well, first off, I'm not. Okay. I'm like the least anti-Jewish like guy, like amongst all people, I guess you could call them white nationalists or whatever. But like I've been like.
What do you mean? I guess you could call them white nationalists. This is the thing you guys do all the time. It's just constant. Like it's just an absolute...
because the term white nationalist is lumped in with a bunch of stuff that I don't believe. Because, like when you say white nationalists, people think, oh, is it NSM? Is that the traditional worker? Is that like all these Ku Klux idiots running around? That's the issue, right? It's an association, and the thing is, it's kind of an intentional association.
Well, yeah, okay, yeah. You're all groups that want a white ethno state.
Somewhat.
And so was Harry Truman. So it's weird to call that Nazi.
Yeah, and so was Harry Truman. So was Winston Churchill. Like, I mean, like, do you see how that's kind of dishonest? Like, do you see how it's dishonest? Do you see how it's sort of sure? And you can argue against that on its own terms, but like, there's this sort of smear to say, oh, if you have
white ethno states.
First off, Britain basically was at the time.
No, it wasn't.
It
wasn't.
Oh,
no,
yes.
Anti-Nazi propaganda during the war was listed off the different races of soldiers fighting against the Nazis.
Well, that's fine, but Britain's immigration policy was white only at the time. In fact, when after the war there was a move to change that, and Winston Churchill actually led a campaign to keep Britain white, right? But like during the war and before the war, Britain was like white only immigration. Same with the US, same with Australia.
At the end of the day, it wasn't white only in the UK.
Yeah,
there wasn't. What is this arbitration?
It was okay, fine. You can say, oh no, there were a few people from India that came in. Whatever. Like it was 99% white. Okay, and that was by policy.
So what makes a white nationalist society? Just the immigration policy. So it could be not white, but basically.
Okay. So I'll explain it. It's basically something like Israel, and this is something that's sort of an issue because I'm like kind of pro-Israel in the sense that Israel, it's a state for the Jews. Now it's not necessarily 100% Jewish, right? And it doesn't have to be. But the thing is, anybody who's a Jew anywhere who's having trouble, like if you're a Jew being persecuted in Turkey or whatever, you can move to Israel. That would be the idea of the white ethno state. It's kind of like an Israel like carve out somewhere, where it's basically like if there's a white person, like for example, all the white people in South Africa would have in a white ethno state. They would all be granted.
In South Africa, it's specifically the farmers that are having the problems.
Well, whoever's having the problems, they'd be granted immediate amnesty, right? Because this is like a carve out on the planet for white people. And I think it's good for everybody on the planet to have some sort of state like that. But my issue, like with you, is that you basically smear people who have the views on race of the people who defeated the Nazis. Back when defeating the Nazis was hard. Back when being anti-Nazi was difficult, right? The people who like did the most to actually defeat this particular regime, and then you're saying, oh, they're like that regime.
Right? Most people were fucking conscripts.
Yeah,
sure.
Have a choice. Yeah,
didn't exactly have a choice.
Okay, but they're what? But the majority of Americans supported the war, and and by that I mean white Americans at the time supported the war. Like, you know this, right?
Not in 1939. They didn't.
Not in 1939.
No, okay, but in 1941, 42, 43, when they were fighting, they did.
Well, that's because Pearl Harbor had happened by that point. Not because of.
Sure, and
no one is suggesting that the people wanted to go to war with Nazi Germany because Nazi Germany was like, it had insufficient white nationalism. That's not what's being said. All that's being said is that the people, the Allies, several of them anyway, held views that today people like you guys would smear as Nazi.
Right. Like they were pro-segregation. You'd call that Nazi.
They're pro-segregation. They were. I said what?
Britain was pro-segregation.
Yeah, number one, Britain wasn't pro-segregation. Number two, being pro-segregation doesn't make you a Nazi.
Britain didn't have enough non-whites for that to even be an issue. It's sort of like saying, oh, the southern states had segregation, but Maine never had segregation. It's like, well, of course there's like 2 black people in Maine. It's like, it doesn't.
We also didn't have Jim Crow laws.
Right, that's segregation. That's what we mean by segregation.
But the northern states didn't have Jim Crow laws.
Some did, like New Jersey did for a while. Like basically states that had a large number of blacks had segregation laws. States which did not have blacks didn't, right? Because if you didn't have any blacks, what's the point? You know. And that's the same thing with Britain. Like people will say, "Oh, Britain never had." Like Britain was whiter than Maine at the time, right? And so yeah, they didn't have segregation laws. It's like, well, but they didn't need any because they didn't have enough. They didn't have enough black people for it to be a problem.
Right? We have a few super chats. Augusto Pinochet, $100 US, says, "Hail Andy, Your Highness, as the Minister of Transportation of the glorious Trapno Reich, allow me to escort our precious guest of the 99% functional genetic diversity to my vacation spot of the shores of Chile, free charge given their political affiliation, helicopter sign. JD80 says, David and Drallasta walked into a massacre. They're just now realizing it. And $50 US from Valentin. Besides white people, are there any other racial groups who engage in self-flagellation due to their past sordid history? Secondly, are there any other racial groups besides whites who are always concerned with the well-being of other racial groups?
Okay, let's go with the concern over well-being of other racial groups. It's countries and different countries do concern themselves with the treatment of immigrants. Like I know definitely Gulf states have some very serious questions over how they treat their immigrants, and there's a lot of debate over the laws over there. So yeah.
Especially Qatar.
Practically. Well, I would say one thing is that like East Asians, when they're in Western countries, when they're like in the United States or in Western Europe, they tend to be very xenophilic, even so than whites. However, when they sort of create their own countries, they're not so much. So it's with East Asians, it's actually a little bit odd. It's like when it's like just them on an island somewhere, they're very exclusionary and xenophobic. But when they're mixed in with whites, they become like, you know.
Yeah, and that's actually been doing quite badly for Japan. Like, do you think Japan as a society is doing well right now, or it's got an aging population? It's got an aging population.
Yeah, that's no fun. But the thing is, the thing is like a lot of people are talking about like the economic problems that Japan's having. A lot of that's actually a function of the aging population. Like Japan's actually like in terms of per working person, it's actually keeping track with like Western Europe and it's keeping track with the OECD countries. So Japan's actually not getting poor. Like really, it only looks like it's getting poor because it has a bunch of old, not working people.
But it's not necessarily economic that we're talking about. Is it as a society doing well because the population? It's not at replacement levels.
Yeah, and so the population is going to decline. You know, it's going to go from like 125 million to maybe like 70 million or something. But the thing about that is, it's not going to decline forever. Like, because people who have the people who have kids, you know, their kids tend to have more kids. right? So so like basically the population drops, but then it sort of curves and then it tends to flatline. I think
That doesn't
But
make
population drops are not a problem that is only solvable through immigration. It can be solved through self-correction. Of course, naturally, evolution corrects for population drops by the process that Ryan just explained, which is that whoever makes babies are replacing the genes of the country by genes who are more likely to make babies. So even if you're at
then how
1.7
would
baby per
population drops even
couple,
occur?
lots of
Yeah,
factors.
For
example-
drastic change in environment.
Like birth control. Like if you introduce birth control, that's a new
There's a few
evolutionary
ways I
factor.
can come up with the top of my head how it works, but it's more it's not really a good path. Mainly because then you can talk about how genes that function for people who want to have lower amounts of children are then favored because they are economically they're better off.
Yeah.
If it doesn't transfer in more descendants, it doesn't matter to evolution.
Yeah. Also, like,
Yeah, so
like
at the end of the day,
Japan's better off than France and England. We'll just say that. Like they're way better off than France and England. Like England's like for example, London just passed New York City in violent crime, and I think that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
So it's like and everyone knows why. It's because you brought in all the brown people, right? So
no.
no, like yes,
No,
that's like literally
Wouldn't
why,
agree
and
with that
everyone knows.
statement. No. It's not because there are brown people there. It's because there are more people there.
No,
Yeah.
the rate. It's the rate.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Oh no!
No.
Do you know what? Oh my god, are we doing the per?
No. Don't take me out of context here. I'm saying that the density of the city has increased, therefore the amount of violent crime has increased. The rate of violent crime has increased.
Yeah, population density does increase violent crime.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
I don't
mixed
know.
evidence on the relationship between population density and crime. It might be a contributing factor. I think that's plausible. But I will say that the literature linking ethnic groups and racial differences to crime is significantly stronger than is the evidence linking population density. And again, I'm not saying that it's one or the other. I think both things probably do contribute to crime.
And I'm a bit disappointed because I thought Sherratt was going to give me more pushback on calling people Nazis and stuff. I thought we were going to get more.
Tired. I'm tired and I got to be quiet now. So.
Oh, all right. Well, yeah, because we had a whole thing lined up. We were going to talk about like Gobanau and
it's basically he's calling you a Nazi because he believes that your beliefs align enough. Or okay. Then who's calling you a Nazi then? Like you're saying that general people on Twitter or whatever are just calling you Nazis?
Well, let me like we were going to go into like saying like for example, the Nazis, they had like an IQ test, which was basically like an information test, and then the proctor would subjectively evaluate how intelligent they thought someone was. So basically, the Nazis had like these ridiculous like not really IQ tests. And the thing is like the anthropologists associations and psychology associations in the West actually held conferences like barring like all this Nazi pseudoscience. So like basically the race realists back in the day were like the forefront of like vocal opponents to all this like Nazi race crap. And then like after the war, like people have managed to sort of do this bait and shift where they take this like Nazi nonsense, like this Aryan mysticism and like this rejection of the scientific method and like intellectual romanticism, and like saying, aha, like this is what like race and IQ stuff leads to. It leads to massacring Jews, which is ridiculous because Jews have like the highest IQ anyway. So it's just it's a complete clusterfuck argument. It's a complete clusterfuck argument.
But it doesn't lead to killing Jews. It leads to eugenics.
Certainly Nazism. I mean, America practiced eugenics before the Nazi state existed.
But I'm not an advocate of eugenics.
It actually can lead to violence. Because when you start going down this route, but here's the thing: when you start going down this route of different racial groups are inferior, different racial groups should be kept different, should be kept separate. Okay, how are we going to do that? Well, no one has a real path to this. No one has a real path to And I had this debate with Roger.
That'll be a debate for like another time,
No,
and we can go over that.
No one within the white nationalist community actually has an argument for a white ethno state. No one has this. No one has this real plan. And you know what? Most of the white nationalist movement knows this to some extent. And what you get is a bunch of people who want it to happen now. Now, when there is also this idea that there is a looming race war or white genocide about to happen or happening as we speak, well, you get some really dangerous people. I don't think the alt-right is ever going to get any further than neo-Nazi skinhead groups and fucking and Oklahoma City bombings, but those are bad. It's never going to really get into power, but those are a problem. That's why I'm here. That's why I talk about this stuff.
Well, okay, but you say like but you're doing this neo-Nazi skinhead things, and the thing is, like you say, like these ideas will never get into power. But the thing is, it's like these are just like the sort of normal default, and it was a weird historical fluke that caused basically whites to stop taking their own side. Like you're looking at this backwards. You're thinking
about white people as a group too heavily here. Yeah, they're not a group, and they're not a well-defined group, and they don't act as a group.
Well, first off, we already established, we already defined that they're a very well-defined group. Like everyone knows that's the case. So that's over.
It is known, Khaleesi.
No, you're dead. You're dead. You're like on the floor dead.
It is known, Khaleesi.
Like you're.
I don't know if we want to go into it or not because it could be somewhat lengthy. But yeah, there are lots of people propose ways by which you could set up a white ethno state that doesn't involve mass violence. But I would also point out, even if we don't go into that, just that this thing you do where you go around calling people who talk about race and IQ and stuff like this, where you call them Nazis, you call them skinheads, you call them evil racists, that also leads to violence.
I never called you.
That's you literally just did. You literally just did like 5 seconds ago.
I was discussing the alt-right as a movement and why.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that you going around calling the alt-right a bunch of Nazis, people doing that has led to violence.
Have you seen Charlottesville? Have you fucking seen Charlottesville?
Yes.
What about
during Charlottesville? There were constant chants of "Gas the Kikes, race war now." I'm sorry.
Yeah, those people are idiots.
Yeah,
those people those people are idiots, and I've been working. And the thing is, I would like for them to stop. All right, but it's hard when because let me tell you what happens. Like I go around saying like, look, Hitler is like a bad guy. Not only is he like he was retarded, he was stupid, he was not a white nationalist in the sense we think of it. His racial science was mystical, voodoo, magical, mystical island of Hyperborea, Aryan nonsense. I do all this stuff, and then whoops, you had a flower of an SS division. Everyone's going to call you a Nazi now, and what you're doing is you're actually like feeding them. Like you're actually like vindicating them. It's like, oh, no matter what you're going to do, they're going to call you a Nazi. Might as well be a Nazi, whatever that even means.
Might as well be a Nazi. Is that really?
Yes, that's really what they say for real. Like that. Like you. Wow, I'm not kidding.
You have a really low opinion of white people.
Yeah.
No.
Hashtag white nationalism.
I'm talking about
some white people sometimes do some stupid things. Ugh. But also with respect to Charlottesville, I would say that there's a problem. Another thing to say about that is just that when you have people and they go there, and some of them, I don't think it's fair to characterize it as a constant chanting of "gas the kikes" or whatever. But certainly there were some people there who are inclined towards maybe certain violent tendencies.
It was called Unite the Right. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Sean.
It was called Unite the Right. The idea being to unite a bunch of factions of the right, not behind killing all the Jews. Let's not be retarded. But anyway, what I'm saying is that when I talk to these people and I say, hey guys, maybe this sort of trying to be this sort of extremism in certain regards is bad. Let's tone it down. Then they try and say, okay, well, how do you tell that to someone when they go to Charlottesville and you have a fucking mob of psychopaths that show up to try to stop them from having basic rights to free speech, right? It's hard to tell someone not engaging in violent politics when their basic political rights are being suppressed.
The Charlottesville, the people at Charlottesville, the Unite the Right rally, they actually went out of their way to walk to the to go and start fighting with protesters. There are videos of this online.
Sure, so, and the reverse also happened. True.
Yes, that's also true. Look, this is, as far as I'm concerned, this kind of street brawling is a problem. I'm not. We're not advocating that.
I agree. And in fact,
I don't see how this has anything to do with. I don't see how this has anything to do
You brought up Charlottesville.
You brought up, yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think I don't see.
I mean, if you concluded that your own topic is irrelevant, then I don't know, cool, get a cookie.
All right. So
yeah, but I don't see what this race realist stuff leads to, other than the than this idea that racial groups should separate.
At the end of the day,
well, it leads to a few things. Well, no, I'll tell you what it leads to. It leads to whites first off taking their own side. That because here's what I've noticed is that when you point out, like when you convince a white person of race realism,
what's white's own side in this situation? Because as far as I'm concerned,
when you
I'm
point
fighting people I care about, and that does include white people. That includes some white people. That includes some black people. That includes some Asian people.
Okay, so you're saying like, okay, well, like race. Okay, it's like you don't care about race, but like race cares about you. So like you can say like I don't care about race all you want, but like it doesn't, like at the end of the day it doesn't matter. You're gonna be attacked for like being white if you were like in South Africa and stuff like that. You're gonna be targeted and marginalized and suppressed like for being white. And the thing is, you're already seeing this within the Democrat Party in the U.S. that like whites within the Democrat Party are being like told to be shut out. Right. So like even among like what we call the quote unquote left, which I don't think it's even left anymore. It's just like a bunch of brown racial nationalists and a bunch of Saruman and worm-tongued whites enabling them. Okay. But like, the thing is,
we're back on the black people are orcs now, are we? And on your fantasy racial.
It's a bit hyperbolic. But the reason I bring that stuff up is because it's a very quick way to explain to someone what I mean. Like when I say like. When I say you're not left wing, like I say you're like Wormtongue and Saruman. Like, and the thing is that's kind of cheesy. That's kind of like Dungeons and Dragons. Yes, right. Like
yeah.
What you're saying here is I'm going to do the what you're saying here is you're saying that white people are traitors to their own race when they act in the way that they want to act. That they act when they act in their own accordance to what they feel is the right thing to do.
Sometimes.
Well, see, this ties back to what realist knowledge actually does, because white people, by and large, have been fed a false narrative about how differences between ethnic groups in live performance are somehow due to the sins of white people. And by correctly explaining the actual mechanisms that lead to those differences, you dispel that sort of guilt that leads them to promote policies that are disadvantageous to their own ethnic group.
Like you literally just did this right now, Sherratt. You're saying, well, maybe they're poor because of segregation, and like I say, okay, I don't think so.
Yeah, that's not the sins of all white people. That's the sins of a very specific group of
people.
No.
They tie it to all white people with this white privilege stuff.
Okay, some people tie it to all white people. No, I don't. We don't. Stop strawmanning.
Right, but you didn't. What you asked us though was what the point is in spreading this race realist narrative, and what we're telling you is that there's a common narrative out in society that blames white people as a group for a set of things, and that a good way to dispel that is to explain why it is that black people actually do have lower socioeconomic status than white people, and it's not the fault of white people. Yes, the fact that you don't spread that false narrative, which I'm skeptical of, but even if you don't spread that false narrative, that's irrelevant. Right.
The way to racial profile people is the way to stop racial profiling people is to racial profile other people instead.
Yeah, you're talking about racial profiling of white people, and then suddenly you want to racially profile black people to sort of like
My objection. This isn't the problem. Isn't racial profiling? You're misunderstanding. The problem is that one ethnic group is blamed for something that they didn't actually do.
So we're going to blame a whole ethnic group for doing something they didn't actually do.
I don't think that blaming people for their genes makes much sense. If you want to put it that way, you can. But yes,
white people for fighting against the white race.
I'm sorry, what?
You guys have just said that the white people are turning against their own race. That is blaming white people for something they're not doing.
Well,
no, can you try to empathize with? Do you see? Assume for a minute that our descriptive view of the world is correct, then does it not make, if we were right about the race and IQ stuff, would it not then make sense to say
if you were right, Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
But that's the point. You're not.
So what you were saying is that we believe our own beliefs. That's your fucking genius
If you were
critique.
correct, you would be correct. Okay. Good job. Good job.
The point is, if the
Genius.
descriptive analysis of the causes of group differences is correct, then it would seem reasonable to interpret that by saying that white people are doing something unfairly against themselves as an ethnic group. That is the point, right? And yes, we believe our own beliefs. That's true.
Right. And moreover, and the point of race realism, like this is like the best pipeline for getting whites to start taking their own side, right? Is to
taking their own side.
Talk about
your average Joe Schmo
is to talk about these genetic differences between the populations, saying no, the reason that these other groups are, I guess, poorer than you is not because of segregation, is not because of slavery, it's because of a genetic difference. Okay. And when you point that out, then suddenly all these demands for all sorts of stuff, it's not some sort of attempt to right a past wrong. Like, if anything, like freaking the Atlantic slave trade was the best thing that would happen to these people because they got to live in the US.
Oh my!
But
no.
What do you mean? No? Would they be? Do you think they'd be better off in Africa now?
The Atlantic slave trade, where like centuries of mistreatment and slavery, you're going to say that's a good thing for people,
as opposed to being slaves in Africa, like, because they weren't going to be free in Africa. And in fact, we actually saw there was no decline in the number of blacks who were slaves within Africa when the Atlantic slave trade ended. Like, there were going to be slaves. It was slavery. It was be a slave in Africa or be a slave in the New World. And much better off being a slave in the New World.
Surely,
much better off being a slave.
Because the Atlantic slave trade stopped, there stopped being new slaves in Africa. Because the slave level maintained the same level, but there was
there was an economy for slaves.
There was no economy for slaves anymore, so it didn't increase and then drop because they were getting exported.
No. Like the slave trade within Africa was bigger than the Atlantic slave trade, even during the Atlantic slave trade. Like, it was like 9-1.
Then it doesn't matter.
Like,
there's still a decrease in demand, and therefore there will be a correlating decrease in supply.
In any case,
not necessarily. No, not necessarily. Not if it's totally inelastic. Not if supply is totally inelastic. Which, based on the fluctuations in prices of slaves in response to changes in demand, there's evidence that the supply of slaves in Black Africa was almost entirely inelastic. Which makes sense, because you can't just go, oh, let's turn on the slave factory and produce more slaves. No, you have to go out there and get them. It's not.
They would go out there and get them. They would go out there and get them.
Supply didn't fluctuate.
And in any case, this is esoteric. It is unrelated to the claim, the original claim by Ryan, which was these people's lives have improved. He didn't say there were no multi-factor impact in Africa then. He said these people who were transported from Africa to the US, they got a lucky outcome.
Right. As opposed to remaining slaves within Africa.
Now we are headed toward concluding statements, so each of you should be preparing a last few sentences that you'd like to say. And on a lighter note, before we move into the concluding statements, I would like to ask to Mr. David Sherratt here, do you believe in the presumption of innocence, sir?
Yes, I do.
And so why do you go around calling me a rapist?
Oh, okay, Garapy. Let's get on with this. Okay. So let's go to the psychological report by Dr. Rosa Gonzalez. Should we do that?
No, because it's not been featured. It's not been featured.
Psychologist said she was not capable of consent. You committed statutory rape according to North Carolina law.
Nope.
That's just
if you believe in the presumption of innocence, you should wait that a criminal trial finds me guilty. Did you find a criminal trial has been done on me?
Okay, JF, what do you think about Rotherham? What do you think about Rotherham? Do you think the Rotherham rape gangs didn't actually rape anyone because the police didn't arrest them?
Oh, well, I would say that
what about Telford?
I would say that I have to presume innocence and that I don't know about the facts of this case. So I wouldn't go around accusing them of rape.
What about Cologne?
Yeah, but
I don't know.
None of it happened according to you.
I've never been on the public space saying that someone has
there is a case. There is a concept of evidence. Yeah. Now I'm not saying now there is a case of there are court documents, official court documents that suggest a level of evidence that would put you in jail. if you hadn't fucked off back to
And
Canada.
so, what's happening with the police system in the US? Why am I not in jail? I'm right here. They know my address.
Because the family didn't want to fucking deal with you anymore.
Hey, why don't?
Because the girl was scared of you.
Okay, why don't?
Did you ever hear this girl say anything of the sort?
And
yeah,
then
fucking court documents, man.
Hey,
no,
why don't
you ever hear this girl say,
I'm
scared of JF?
Did I ever personally hear it?
No, not personally. Did you ever see a trace of a court document where this woman says, I'm scared of JF?
No, she likes cats, JF.
No, what you will be reporting is hearsay by an employee of her father. That is all false allegations. These are all false allegations, and you guys don't respect the value that you stand
JF. That's rape. That's
what is rape?
Okay.
What is rape?
She was the ward of the court.
She was not the ward of the court when I was with her.
JF.
She was a consenting adult. So you guys are going around the public space claiming that I'm a rapist, and you have no evidence, you have no criminal trial, and you guys don't respect due process. You're a bunch of shitty, ratty people.
And
you do respect due
This
process.
kind of people I wouldn't want to live with.
Okay. Okay, let's Sean and I do our concluding statements, and then you can do this argument. Because this is like this is a separate debate. This is a separate thing. Okay. Concluding arguments, like a lot of the stuff has been relitigated from like the Kraut and Tea stuff. A lot of the sources we cited were literally stuff.
Yeah, actually, speaking of the Kraut and Tea stuff, I've got a bunch
that the Muppet Farm went about. Are you going to make a new argument at the very end as your concluding statement? Is that BS?
You can finish. You can finish. Doesn't matter.
Don't do that stuff where you do like your concluding statement and it's an argument and I can't respond to it.
No, it's not about that.
All right. So anyway, I don't know how to conclude. Like I've done this all to death. You know.
Yeah.
These guys got beat. It's over.
Like, all right, are you ready for us then? All right. So do you want to go into the Kraut stuff first?
Yeah, okay. And this is something I do need to bring up. And really, this is because the Warski Life pretty much became what it is now because of the Kraut doxing server drama narrative thing that's going on. And I'm connected to this somewhat because a clip of me that was secretly recorded between me and Kraut. There was a video that was discussed, and I refer to it as doxing. Now, this video was called "The Race Mixer Beats His Meat." Now, you might know what it is, old hype.
Yes, I'm familiar with that video.
Never will I die.
Yeah. Now, okay. So the reason I called it a dox was because I wasn't actually familiar with the content of the video, and it wasn't actually the content itself that was the problem. Now, in the description of the video, it stated...
No, the content was great. The content of the video was fantastic.
No one wants to see you jerk off. Including the alleged 14-year-old or minor that you sent it to. That's the reason that video is out in the first place.
Whoa.
That was what the video said.
In the description of the video.
In the description of the video, it states... Okay, I have the archive here. I have the archive here. The Race Mixer, a.k.a. the Pink Panther 96, beats off on camera. He made this for a minor... and I didn't expect to report him. Sick fucker.
And you see, the issue is that isn't the only instance.
And a friend of mine did a bit of digging, because this wasn't the only time you've been accused of pedophilia,
Didn't you just say that the thing you were going to say wasn't about Ryan?
So now
how could he
lie?
Okay. It wasn't an argument.
It's not about you. I'm just going to call you.
So here you are. So look, we're seeing a pattern here. Here you are accusing people of rape based on hearsay. Now you're saying, "Oh, you're
not hearsay.
It's not hearsay. It's something I've heard.
Court documents are not hearsay.
Court documents can very easily be hearsay.
Okay, so then why the hell did these pedophilia accusations disappear? Make you disappear from the internet for several years?
I
didn't disappear from the internet. Like, what are you talking about?
Well, you deleted all your channels. These
deleted all your channels.
No, my channels got banned. My channels got regularly banned.
Okay. Sure, dear.
Sure, like this is like
you just
like people know this. Like they got banned.
At the end of the day, there are several accusations with evidence that you.
What evidence? What evidence? What evidence?
Do you want me to?
Video evidence of chat logs where
the evidence was not enough.
You asked a 14-year-old to hook up with you.
Mm.
What the fuck is this? Also, like, I was never Pink Panther anything. That was never an account of mine.
But
Wow.
it seems that the evidence was
See.
not strong enough for any court to find Ryan guilty of anything.
Like,
And in
what?
fact,
What
to
is
be
this?
searched,
Like, is this what you do, Sherratt? You just call people like pedophiles? Like, oh, some
Not
guy on the
without,
internet.
not without evidence, dear.
Not without evidence. Don't worry.
Okay,
I'll do a quick video tomorrow or something. I'll show the evidence if you want.
You'll love it.
You'll love it. It'll be great.
Will the evidence have a link to an account or something? Like, or is it just going to be some account that says I'm Ryan Falk or something?
There's some. There's probably a bit more evidence than that. But okay, that's fine. I gotta go. It's 20 past 2 in the morning, and
we are.
people in my house are trying to sleep now. I'm gonna go.
Fair enough. Later.
See ya.
Right, guys.
Did we have time for everyone's concluding statement? I don't think so, but if you guys want to say some last words. This is extremely a pathetic ending.
Wow.
That is like at the very end, like, oh, surprise, you're a pedophile. And like here's a description from a video from like years ago.
Oh.
And like
left
the internet? Like, what the
this is what happens when two keyboard warriors meet real men in an internet blood sports match. They weren't prepared. So I'll start with my concluding statement, and then you guys can go. I mean, it starts with 20 minutes of facts just being dropped on these guys that they were requesting. It's not like we harassed them with mysterious studies. They were asking, what are your facts on which you base your racial realism view? Well, here are the facts. And then it's like, oh no, you're flooding us with studies. These people don't know anything. They don't know what they're talking about. And all the information is on Alternative Hypothesis website. So it's not like we surprise them with anything that anyone here has not been saying for more than 5 years on the internet. It's all there. The record is there, and they couldn't do the research, because when these people say race don't exist, it's based on ignorance, not on research. Now, the second part of the discussion, it was about calling people Nazis. Again, they cannot back it. That was not a particularly interesting part, other than the fact that they don't have facts to base their claim on, other than, oh, there's one guy in the alt-right who shouted this during a rally. Okay, well, one guy is not enough to justify you calling Ryan a Nazi. In fact, I've been in private with Ryan. I can attest that he's the least anti-Semite alt-righter I can think of. I even tried to get some things out of him, and it's impossible. This guy is not a Nazi. And on the end, David Sherratt shows his keyboard warrior skills. He calls people rapists. He calls people pedophiles. He cannot show the evidence. He thinks that because a document has been filed in court, that it's an official court document. It's not. I can file a document tomorrow morning claiming that David Sherratt is a rapist in court, and it's going to have the stamp of the court. It's just JF's allegation. There was never any finding in the case, in my case, where I could have even committed anything close to rape. There was never any finding that my ex-fiancé could not consent to love stories or sex. And so this guy is going around Twitter making these claims, and he cannot back them up. And what we have here is someone who is engaged in political activism and doesn't care about his principle of presumption of innocence, doesn't care about the quality of evidence. He's willing to call Ryan a pedophile based on a YouTube description. That's the level of evidence we're dealing with.
Yeah. That was...
Well, maybe that's why these people don't come on to these debates.
Is that why? But like, I'm wondering. And sorry, I know my mic's been fucked up the whole time. It's either too low or too loud. I'm gonna try to level this out somehow. Sorry, guys. OBS is being weird. But like, he asked me to battle you specifically. Like, did they have that bomb at the end planned? Because it really seemed like
they had to have,
because that was his final statement, was just bringing that up. Like, that was like, it felt premeditated. Like, they came in here, they were gonna have a debate, but the whole idea wasn't for the debate. It was for that ending to be like wham. Because if he's making a video, he's been planning this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and they weren't. And the thing is, it looked like they weren't prepared for the debate. They were just
they
like,
asked, next time tell us what studies. They're like, tell us what studies to bring. It's like you knew what the debate was about, so you should have been ready for those studies.
It's like we've been doing this for 6 fucking months, and all this. Like I think every single study we've cited has been in like some sort of response to crowd or something. Like it's not like this isn't like esoteric shit. Like this is all.
Yeah,
but whatever.
Because it was like 2 hours of that, and then just all right, guys, boom, fuck off. Like, all right, David, like, Jesus Christ, this is fucked. This was a very uncomfortable ending. I'll say that much.
Anyway.
Yeah. Well, it was a fun show.
Yeah,
I was on the edge of my seat.
You guys did very well.
I was on the edge of my seat by the end. Like it was funny at a lot of points. There was some like intense moments, some funny, weird moments, and then a fucking ending to go like, okay. And then I guess thanks for being on the show. We really appreciate it. Dudes.
Whatever. I don't know. Maybe I should I don't know. Maybe like I should do not to like actually say that he's like a pedophile, but to like, I don't know, find some chat logs or something. Yeah. And like somebody or do that bullshit. It's like, oh, here's a chat log, oh, here's a picture of David Sherratt. Oh, he's friends with these people. Like make some, catfish Facebook account or something just to show like this is just like dirty tricks. This is just ridiculous.
Yeah. So
this is really, I mean, it really speaks to the pathology of these people who need to fill their life with some fucked up moral crusade against Nazis on the internet, and they're how warped their sense of morality becomes that they come into a debate with such a fucked up ulterior motive as to call someone a fucking pedophile.
The hell of it is, I was going to give them props for showing up. Like I was like trying to be like as polite as possible for them to just show up.
Me too.
Because that's like a million times more than like these shit stains like ContraPoints or Bomberman or whatever that they'll ever do. Like they'll never actually engage with people who criticize with them. So I was like, well, let's give them props for actually like being here, But then it's like, but it seems like this is the only reason they're being here. So they weren't really here.
I DM'd,
so it's like, fuck.
I DM'd David and I was like, yo, props on fucking because he reached out to me. So I was like, awesome, that's cool. Like I was gonna give him props too for setting this up because he was the one who started the ball rolling.
But now
I don't know, but like, do you? It has to be that was planned, or if he would have came in here and just have the debate, but at the end he got really like he was getting emotional at the end. You saw that, right? Like he was getting like intense and in the camera, and maybe that was his Hail Mary.
I mean, that's a pretty weird. Like, oh yeah, sometimes I just get emotional and call people pedophiles. That's not a normal fucking statement.
Fair enough. You got me there.
I think this is all planned.
No, but this is also a result of being 5 times in a row having a question asked to them, and they're
hang on. May I bring up a callback from halfway through the show? There was a part where I had to defend, as usual, the blood sports genre. This is why blood sports is not productive. We were having like you guys were having a nice debate back and forth. They brought the last like that was blood sports. You pull out a fucking magnum at the end and shoot the person in the back of the head after you shook their hand. Yeah, okay.
Like the Big Lebowski guy at the bowling range.
Yeah.
What's happening?
It's like you all like, all right, peace out. Okay, that was a good fight. They're walking away and they just turned around and just fucking Goodfellas you in the back of the head. They were the ones who used the blood sports for the shitty thing. And I just wanted to say, yeah, but anyway, that's fucking I don't know what to say. You guys, that was fucked, man.
Well, whatever. I think Sean didn't make his last statement.
Yeah, Sean, go ahead.
Ryan's not a pedophile. And people, if you want to do this thing where you go online and debate about a scientific topic, the first step is to read like a pile of textbooks. These people, this is a sad example. If you don't know how twin studies work, if you don't know what subspecies are, if you don't know how these things are tested for genetically, just don't talk about this shit. Obviously, both of them had no idea what they were talking about, and then they ended it with a pedophile accusation. Like this was a bizarre monstrosity of a fucking debate.
Also, if you're in a point where you're like, I'm going to debunk twin studies, not like a particular twin study, but like the methodology of twin studies, you're just like
you're fighting a uphill battle.
Just get the fuck out. You don't know what you're doing.
Well, it's like, oh, you can't control for socioeconomic status. I'm going to say that in a debate. Why? Well, I'm not a psychologist, so okay, then don't fucking say that.
This was YouTube race realism, compact in 2 hours. Race doesn't exist. Okay, well, race may exist, but you can't control your studies. Oh, well, you may control your studies, but I don't know about it. I'm not a psychologist. Oh, well, then you're a pedophile.
Perfect. All right.
Holy shit. Well, guys, thanks for being on the show. Yeah, we'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Peace. And we'll stick around. I couldn't, stop that show for Super Chats. Except for the really big ones, it was 2.5 hours.
Sorry, guys.
What was I gonna do? Hey guys, sorry.
I tried to push in some. I did, but that's what we could do. Yeah. These guys know how to handle debates, and it was pure pleasure.
It was painful. Sorry about
now, Andy. I will be calling the Canadian police tonight. I have committed rape. I have been involved in a rape tonight. And I want to report myself. We've raped them with knowledge, facts, and it was hard. They didn't consent to all this knowledge being dropped on them.
It's gonna be clipped. It's gonna be clipped, damn. Oh my god, that was the game I was playing earlier. I was telling you, you're looking through the deep web. It's a horror game called Welcome to the Game. I was playing on Purple Dragon. I cried almost. Okay. But in the game, you're in the deep web, and there was like sites you have to go to that are illegal, right? But I'm saying this, and people are clipping it, and it looks real, like I'm going through illegal websites and putting it online. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna check out the CP.
These are our games. I just cannot play them. The horror games of today, they're just too advanced. It's making me too scared.
I honestly, I had tears in my eyes at one point. It's just, there was binary code on one of the websites, and I went on a real computer, put in the binary, and while I'm doing this in my real computer, I hear a knock. Right? But it's from the game, but I'm screaming. And when I translate the binary, it's like this weird poem if you heard me knock, you will end up dying in 5 minutes. But you're in a computer in the game and your real life. So your immersion, you're like, I want to kill myself right now.
Oh, shit.
And then everyone in the chat's like, hey, run to the bathroom and hide. I'm like, stop it. Stop it. Oh my God. The police break into your house. Oh, fuck that shit. Anyway, that's why being clipped out of context sucks. Shall we do super chats?
Yep.
Oh my God.
This was a good one.
That was fucking ridiculous at the end there. Thank you everyone for the mad support there. We really appreciate you. All right, let's start reading. John's Favids, $5. Hail Manwarski. Innocent Rush, $2. Alt Hype will pause alt facts neghole with lead enema. Jet Set Tomato, $10. Jim or JF Gauntlet match versus 10 people on varying issues. See how long they can last. Make it happen. And hail Andy. That'd be very interesting. Stan Jarvis, $2. Abomination. Talia Dan, €10. YouTube scientist and freak. Kick the disgusting creature to the orbit and beyond. Stein, New Zealand, $2 New Zealand dollars. Give David red lipstick and add mouth plow. No homo. Jesus. Stein, another $2. Trends are sex objects and have no other uses. Puppet Pal Clem, $2. This stream is a sausage fest.
Not really. Oh yeah, you're right.
Videos, $10. When the subject is to say white people and have more privilege than others, nobody Nobody say race does not exist. I'm gonna blow my nose, dude. Just 1 second.
All right, and so Rachel, $5 US. How do scientists arrive at the conclusion that black women are more likely to die of breast cancer if there is no race? Notlex, $3 US. Good job, Andy. I love you. Commander, $5 US. This is like when creationists ask for the different stages of evolution, and once you can tell them what came next, they say, haha, gotcha. Luffy Ace, $5 US. How do white men pleasure white women with their teeny rods? Discuss. Leecher, 10 euros. If race and sex aren't real, how come I can tell David isn't white and the woman isn't a woman? Kane, £5. A big problem with that study as it only counts Britain and English, when in fact there are 2 ethnic groups in the country, Celtic and Anglo. Notlex, $4 US. Cool Adam's apple, dude.
Yeah, I'm gonna grab water 1 second.
All right. Kaif, £10. This is an argument where smart people become dumber because other smart people are delusional. Of course it exists, and of course the person wrong about genes just happens to be transgender. Vinny S, $5. Ask them if they are black. Lurker, $2 US. What's wrong with her jaw? And get a comb, David. Kirk Caldwell, $5 US. Enough race realism. Talk about Gamergate for the millionth time. I think you were sarcastic. American Gadfly, $10 US. This is a stupid argument. None of it is going to matter when the Bigfoots come out of the jungle and subjugate humanity. I'm going to join our genetic superiors in oppressing all of you except Andy.
Thank you. I'll read on a little bit. White, £5. In pagan times, Drallasta would have been beaten over. Oh my God! Come on, guys! Enough. The good old days. Come on. Jesus Christ, Garm 93. We read this one, but thank you for the huge donation, my friend. We really appreciate it. MH, $5. Wanting to mutilate an organ just to get fucked in a gaping surgical wound to satisfy a sick fetish. Very healthy. That's very intense. So I'm on a lot of NyQuil too. $2. You're not fooling anyone, Tucker. Woke center left, $5. How these idiots never seen 23andMe? They are clearly ways to genetically differentiate groups in different races. Sorry, man, my mouth is all destroyed right now. Kits 409, $5. This is why Britannia is falling. Kirk Caldwell, $5. I am black. Soon America and your women will be ours. Ragnar Alfer, $2. She's a plant. She held that Red Bull and posed for the cam. So they think that she was sponsored by Red Bull. Came on the Warski show for free advertising dollars.
Not sure it would be a good marketing strategy, yeah. Honestly. As much as I want sponsors.
Chad Nationalist, $5. David and the chick have me clutching my chain link fence glue bag over my head, waiting for the bombs to drop. DUR bucks, $5. This emo dude and the girl, male, you guys are being ridiculous. They're incapable of understanding the arguments of Ryan or Sean. Orchard, $20. Alt hype. Did you read this one? No. Alt Hype is the best YouTuber, and you should bring Distributist on someday. Also, join my Discord server to discuss self-reliance and more practical ways to preserve European tradition. Discord. I'm going to put on the screen there. Right there. GGSH. There you go. Thanks for the support on the show. Garm93, €20. What happened to the more variance and then between groups? How can she say they would be any disadvantage for choosing mates inside their own race? If you want to read on for a little bit.
Yes, so I'm waiting for it because every time you move, it's blurry for me. So Kirk Caldwell, $5 US. How is arguing with people on the internet going to save the white race? Chris Cobb, $2 US, trying to explain facts to a boy that thinks it's a girl. Michael Corleone, $2 US, should whites adopt Islam to save trad world / race? Garm93, €10, it's bad to mate within your own race because you could accidentally bang a relative? Interrogation mark, exclamation mark. Augusto Pinochet, thank you so much for the $100 donation. I've read
awesome,
this
man.
one. Woke Center left, $5 US. Tranny says don't involve race in politics, but certainly support affirmative action. ... Norton Chapped, £5. I'd be interested in talking to alternative facts. I'm British and can clearly put him in his place. Don't represent my country. Covert loyalist Twitter. Garm93, €14.88, $14.88 for Sherratt to lay off the soy so his balls can eventually drop. Hollow Words, £50. I've read this one. Thank you so much for the donation. Commander of the 88, $5 US. These two Britbong chuckle fucks are finding less and less to laugh about. Augusto Pinochet with a second $100 donation. Thank you so much. I've read this one.
It made me go oof at the end of it.
Woke Center left, $5 US. Can these dumbasses explain how a Chihuahua and German Shepherd are the exact same species of animal, but human races don't exist? Anti-science fools. Water Jabbers, $5 US. David, there are no forms of racial politics that are less dangerous than others. There are just forms that fit your worldview better than others. Mountain Men Mike, $5 US. Given that we interbreed with Neanderthals and they are considered a different subspecies, why is the lack of fertility relevant? Will, $5 US. Slavery was a false flag. I think he was being sarcastic.
I'll read on from here. Innocence Rush, $5. Oh, by the way, if you enjoyed the show, hit like. Also, Monday, AIU versus Nick Fuentes. That's gonna be. I'm pumped for that one, dude.
This is so awesome.
So good.
And on Thursday, I think we might have people coming to talk about sex and IQ in the relationship.
I saw that DM before we started. Sounds very interesting. Yeah, that's gonna be. All right, so I'm Innocence Rush, $5. If a person kills someone based on racial hatred versus other reasons, who is more dead? And why do Jews do well despite a lot of oppression against them? Interesting. Causality, $5. Alt hype. Wouldn't the denial of jobs on the basis of race over the course of 4+ generations lessen the heritable trait of acquiring affluence? Tony Cannoli, $5. Jim Crow affected employment a lot less than you think. It affected those. It affected who their businesses. They employed blacks but didn't serve them. Whatcha Man, $2. My historical context equals baby the blacks. Which apparently, if you write black or blacks on YouTube, it blocks it out now.
Really?
You have to put a dash in between L and A. Not even fucking.
What
joking.
if I like black cars or black desk or
blacks.
a black desktop?
I think
blacks.
I think you're or no, even black. Yeah, this guy right here. He's like a watch a man through another $5. I just found out that typing the word black without the dash is a banned word in the super chat. YouTube is goofy as fuck. Is that true? What?
What about whites? What about Asians?
Oh shit. Yo, that's racist. Banning blacks?
That's racist. That's racist.
Apocalypse Lemon, $2. The genes are the control, you autists. Ericotta, $2. Stop interrupting each other. Clinton Ramsey, $2. Thank you very much. Leecher, €5. Drallasta is a fucking white male. Yo, what's up, Sinatra?
Motherfucker, Sinatra's in the place.
How you doing,
Hello,
man?
How you guys doing?
Welcome.
I heard you guys are having a little bit of fun.
Hey, did you hear the ending there?
It sounds like people who 6 months ago couldn't read studies still can't read them, and have to resort in personal attacks and slander.
Do I? Wait. Do I hear a woman?
That's Aiden.
Did you hear a woman? Do you have your Bad Bunch?
Yeah, they're right here.
We've never had a woman on the show other than this Rouge V special show, but it was a special episode. Hello.
I feel like I
No,
owe your
no,
entire audience
Hang
an
on.
apology for my display on the Rouge Beef thing.
No, wait. And Aiden, you were on. I think the last time on the show was it when you're yelling at Kraut and then you cried a little bit.
It happens. It's okay.
Just a little.
Love Aiden. What's going on? Thanks for being on.
Hey.
You
1
DM.
second,
Yeah,
I have
cool,
to
cool.
think
So what do you think about the ending there? You heard the show, right?
Oh yeah.
And what did you think about David's display there at the end?
It was about what I just said, which is that like it was what I expected. They still couldn't read the same studies that were being pulled out 6 months ago now. These are the same studies. This is the same information.
Mm-hmm.
And they were still woefully, completely misinformed about it. And I'm not surprised at that. And I'm also not surprised that fucking in the end, what did it come out to be? It was just an attempt to, gotcha, I'm going to make a video about you. All right, not a surprise.
Because it always seems like, I think their point at the end was, oh, the reason you are, like what's the point of even talking about race and race differences? You're just using it to be white nationalists. And I'm like, hello, I believe in race being real, and I'm not a white nationalist or, and that's their point. So they lose all these points in the debate. Like JF said, okay, fine. You know what? Or maybe you're right about that, but what about... And then by the end, it's just, okay, we got nothing. Pull out the fucking Molotov and burn this place down. Because
On the way out, they turned it into a real fun blood sports match, and we're like, okay, I win, bye.
Oh yeah, and that's the best way to go about it, is to say some absolutely indefensible shit, and then just run away.
Yeah, that was. I wasn't expecting that. I was like, all right, this is done. That went well. That was interesting. I was on the edge of my seat at the end there. Really funny too at some points. And then, all right, I guess. I thought he was too excited to DM me. I don't know, when I was like, wow, I was just like, whoa, look at this friggin' DM. This, I didn't think, and now I go, okay, maybe that was.
And yeah, now I've proved that there are trolls in the Warski ghetto. Can you believe it? Wow. They are telling me that I should change my jacket, but I changed my jacket. This is a jacket that I've not been wearing for a month. And so these guys, they don't actually follow. They're not true fans. And so I'm never going to listen to them again. They are trolls.
The chat's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, no, I'm reading the chat.
Did you read that? What I've done?
Yep.
Oh man, you guys.
It's just sort of, it was really frustrating because at one point, everyone knows I'm not a fan of Drallasta in any way. He has been a complete asshole to me every time we've interacted. So when I hear him say things like, if you can't prove something 100% without any error, it's not scientific, that's sort of like, okay. We need to go back to basics.
Yeah, that is fucking, oh man.
Or it just, no, the point is they just weren't interested in actually talking about anything. They weren't interested in the debate.
That's what I was thinking too towards the end. It's like, because I heard you say it, Andy, and I think you're right, that was their plan all along, to just deal with it and on the way out throw that shit.
Well, because when Sean and All Hype brought up certain points or certain studies rather, and they're like, we weren't ready for this. Like I was like, in my head, I'm like, how? This is what you guys have been planning this for? How? You know what I mean?
Well, they're the type of person to do that, though.
Topic. You don't go into a debate like, if you hated someone for like a year or 2 years about one topic and finally got the chance, you'd think you'd be like, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. You just came in and were like, oh, I didn't study before the debate.
That's why I would think you're right, is that they just wanted the chance to come in front of 2,300 people and go, rapist, pedophile, okay, bye.
There's 3K watching that part.
3,000.
That's a lot of people to be saying, dropping that. And even wasn't Alt Hype's last words before that was, you're not gonna say something that I'm
He
gonna have
called
to stick around for. And then you think, nah.
What happened next?
But David didn't stick around for it. That's the funny part. He just left it and was like, "Oh, it's like too late o'clock, and I gotta go."
Wow, where have I seen that before? Yeah, it seems to be a consistent trend. I was actually, when I saw that this was going to happen, I was interested in it because I thought, well, there's no way. Why would they? I mean, Ryan Folk has spent, which was such a weird, that was a very odd thing to say, that he disappeared from the internet for years.
And did he?
He's been, no, not as far as I have any awareness of. He's been doing this for about a decade, pretty consistently.
This is an allegation that's been made by some article that said, oh, he's left the internet, therefore he had a guilty conscience. But it's absolutely ridiculous. He's always been there.
Oh, yeah, I just found that really bizarre. And again, I'm sure there'll be some additional backup on it. But he has spent an extremely long amount of time researching this. And yet now I would expect some of the same degree in response. I mean, JF, we haven't talked in a while, but the whole thing has been, this is now 6 months going on, and they can't read these twin studies. And then the only response will be, well, it's social science, it's dumb, or, well, it can't account for 100% of the variance. And if you can find me a study that accounts for 100% of the variance in any kind of, in anything, I would be very interested in seeing that.
Especially
Go ahead. Drallasta admitted that she was a YouTube scientist of Kraut, so she's been in that whole debate, and she's been counseling Kraut on this. And then they planned this debate. This very debate was supposed to happen a month ago on the Copycat Baked Alaska channel. By the way, as I say that, I see that in Andy's favorite video views, there's a live debate about what? Flat Earth. Oh my god. Oh my god.
He's gonna call me about this. Hey man, I heard you guys were talking shit again. I'm like, every day I'm like, Baked. When they go to you and say I'm talking shit, assume that they're lying. Like everything, 4 days in a row, I'm like, dude, I swear we were joking. He's like, okay, I'm just making sure. I'm just making sure. I'm like he's like, they said that like JF hates me or something. I'm like, no one said that.
I think Baked is a free rider on the alt-right. I think he's not going to be able to handle the heat. I'm just being mean to him so that the internet is not mean to him within the next month.
Now I have to go on Skype tomorrow and go, no, Baked.
You're going to get 30 messages from him.
Oh, the joke, dude, I swear. Oh, my God.
Hashtag Black Alaska.
When they want to disprove the twin studies, it's now up to them to prove the Flynn effect, and they just can't do it. They cannot prove it.
It's just, I don't think they've actually, I mean, this keeps happening where it's maybe you've read the abstract or I mean, the general consensus of what I've seen has just been an outright condemnation of, well, social science will never be able to provide us with the elimination of all external variables. And that's true, but even in some of the most extremely refined studies, you're not going to be able to eliminate external or confounding variables. You can only account for them as far as my understanding is concerned.
Someone in the chat called him Easy Baked.
Well, I mean, like, the good joke there is that, you know what a blind bake is? It's a sort of like when you kind of bake a pie crust first before you actually go and put the filling in. That's called a blind bake. Oh. So you can get blind baked Alaska. I thought that was going to be blind baked Alaska for a while.
Ricky Vaughn versus Paul Newman. That's good.
This
was entertainment. As soon as I ended the show, I'm like, I need to go watch this shit. It's going to be fucking great.
Yo, and this even happened yesterday. Like someone coming into like Baked Alaska was actually messaging me to hop on his show, but I was actually busy. Hanging out with some people, and then I hear that alt-right people doxed other alt-right people. Now there was like a big battle and a dumpster fire that happened on. It seems like when people just argue now, it's go to the bottom of the barrel of shit and just throw it at someone, you know?
It's the last throw of a losing argument is when you just start talking mad shit about like they're rapists or pedophile, or I have your docs. Haha, it's the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna.
That's kind of been what all of this has been, though, is that we don't have any arguments. In fact, we don't even need them because we can just rely on bullshit, on personal attacks.
You going over to the BA experience?
You want to crash the stream?
Let's crash the stream with no survivors.
V, are you telling people to raid
V.
Baked Alaska stream? How dare you,
Let's
V?
raid Baked Alaska stream and point to the fact that his beard has gotten shorter.
Yeah. Everyone go hashtag baked short beard.
Where is the beard?
Everyone-
Where are the hairs?
Here, I'm gonna link it. I'll link it in the chat. Let's,
Leave him alone, V.
Leave us alone,
no,
V.
just talking about his beard and how it's shorter. Hang on, where's our chat?
Where are the
Call him
hairs?
Mr. Loomer. I heard he loves it.
There we go. I'm gonna link it in the chat. Everyone, head over there and just say ask hashtag what the fuck happened. Open a new tab. You don't want to act like flat earthers. Everyone, act like a flat earther, and the flat earthers invaded.
Call him. You got to call him Sphere Cucks.
Call them spirit cocks. Just get him some views, you know. Help him out. All right. Anyway, that didn't really work out. Oh, there it is. Short beard. Hashtag V said for us to raid this. V said for us to raid this stream. Everyone say V sent us. Everyone say V sent us.
Raid Black Alaska. Your beard is flat. Play it. I want to see his face. I want to see his face.
Okay, yeah. Let me play it.
He has not reacted yet.
You gotta wait for that 30-second delay.
Yeah.
And more people are coming in here.
Dude,
What's
he
going
just
on?
played 150 viewers.
The viewers are increasing. What is going on? Sphere cucks. Holy shit.
He's
Okay,
freaking
maybe
out.
He
we'll
just
keep
said,
going.
"What the
shit?"
You gotta call him a spear cuck.
The audience can hear, but he's going, why is everyone running sphere cock? They're all coming in. What the fuck?
Scott Terry
V
with the
sent
dollar.
us.
V sent us. Hey, what's up? What's up,
V
V?
sent us.
Thanks for having me on. Remember, facts never speak for
Leave us
themselves,
alone,
regardless
He
of
thinks
what.
it's me. Oh, thank God. I don't have to Skype with him tomorrow. It's going to have to be V.
You're gonna get in so much trouble.
You thought you were in trouble with Baked before for violating your friendship. Just you wait.
Everyone, V sent us. V.
You all have to say V sent you.
Hail V. We've changed the focus of this entire show.
Can we get
I wanted to have
when
Jim
Jake
on
comes
today.
to look, he's like, "Man, what?
Oh,
What did I do?"
that's fucking funny. Okay, that's that was funny. That was.
Come on, V. That's enough. Leave him alone.
No, I gave him views. That's a boost for his channel. That's good. It's not a negative. We didn't do a spit on your brother. Like the Milo stream, remember, on Kumite? Anyway.
Oh my God.
That was so funny.
The next day, Milo's like, "I'm back from Kumite training."
Okay, we should try pounding through a few of these super chats now. But you guys can stick around if you want to help respond or chime in. It's up to you.
All right, sure.
All right, cool. Where were we? Fucking Leecher, €5. Drallasta is a fucking white male. JD80, $50. David, well, $50. Thank you so much. Like first of all, it's amazing. Wow. David and Drallasta walked into a massacre. They're just now beginning to realize it. I think JF already read that, but
Yeah.
you saw they started panicking at one point, right? And that's when that donation came in. Tenebris.
This moment where you cannot answer a question that is simple is very heartbreaking.
It's like
I
that.
like the human suffering in that moment.
Yeah, it's like the moment you know you fuck up. Like you're gonna jump over like a small little gap, and you're like, "Oh, I'm not gonna make this." That moment, you know. Tenebris Anima, £5. Why didn't they read any of the relevant studies before entering the debate?
Andy, Baked is calling out V right now. He's like, V, get out here. I'm right here, dude. What's up?
No way. Bates is calling out V right now.
He's calling V.
No, he's, oh shit! Hang on. Holy fuck, that's funny. Oh, that's funny. Hang on. Let me just see. Baked, where are you, Baked? Fucking guy. He's so gullible. He believes absolutely.
I'm adding V is our Lord
Because, I mean,
in the
it's a
chat.
fact that a lot.
Oh my god. V's talking shit. V1. Oh my god. This is fucking amazing, dudes. Okay, well, you guys keep your eye on that.
He's shutting it down.
He's literally shutting it down.
No, he's
like,
not.
Yes, he
He's
is.
shutting it down? No.
You gotta send him a message and be like, it was me.
Hang on. Yo, everyone. Oh,
He's like,
no.
I'm gonna shut this down and start a new one.
No, Briggs. Hang on, I have to call this guy. What an idiot. Hang on, where's Skype? Oh shit, where's Skype?
Oh my god.
Skype.
No, actually, it was the end of the debate. He was reading super chats, and I think he was ready to shut it down.
Oh.
No, he said he's gonna shut it down and start a new one.
Oh, really? Start a new one?
Yes.
Baked. Oh, fucking hide. Baked.
Call his ass.
Oh yeah, let me fucking just call him. Okay, hang on. I have to do a quick call. Sorry, guys. A bit unprofessional. Hang on. This is a bit Yo. You're baked.
Hold up.
Baked.
Did you just have people raid my chat?
Yeah, that was us. We were just playing around, man. It was. We don't,
No, that's fun.
Okay.
That's funny.
You like that? Okay, good.
No, I loved it. I was like, wait, it was just awkward because like I was just ending my debate and then
you
all
were
of a
just
sudden,
ending it. Okay, JF, you're
Yeah.
right. You're all right. You're right. We were scared. I was calling you in case we're still live. By the way, I'm still live.
Oh, nice.
I baked.
But we fucking dude, that scared the fuck out of me. That you were gonna shut it down because you were gonna you were angry at V.
Oh no. I'm shutting it. I'm restarting the stream because I was on Google Hangouts for the debate.
Okay,
and
you're starting a
and
new
so
stream.
now I'm going to OBS. So
fair enough.
I told you so.
Tell him to, I'm about to go live again. Tell him to raid.
All right,
raid
cool, man.
again.
Cool. Sounds good.
Are you, so you're live? Are you on Purple Dragon?
Yeah.
or
No,
Warski Live?
on Warski Live. I have to go, but
Okay.
good luck on your stream. All right, peace.
Okay, tell him to raid again.
Yeah,
Bye.
cool, bye.
Some people call it a new stream. I call it a new opportunity.
But no, there's something negative now. We wanted to raid this stream because it was funny, right? But now he just asked me on Skype. I don't know. Could you hear that or no?
No, we couldn't.
All right, the audience heard that. All right, the audience heard that, but he's asking now, hey, come to my new stream and raid it. But now it's gonna be like us going as like, hey, like, I don't know. I think we should spit on him.
Yeah, or we can raid it with something that would actually piss him off for real.
Mr. Loomer.
Yeah. Yeah, we can't go in now with a positive, hey, what's going on, man? We'll all right, you guys keep us updated on the baked situation, and we'll continue the harassment. Tenebris Anima, £5. Why didn't? Oh yeah, okay. Garm93, €10. Again, thank you very much, man. If you want to talk about stuff, be informed. Superman Clark Kent, $5. I've read about that American 1943 poll. The only mention of that poll that exists. Sorry, this is weird. Within a book that had no source, but the book sourced everything else. You want to read on from here, man?
Yep. So we have LM $5 US. All type is homo. He can't be Nazi. Mikey Nuck even talked about how Ryan was unnecessarily anti-Hitler today on his show. Baron $5 US. Andy, please remind people that Nazi Party means National Socialist German Workers' Party. Some people here can do research. Idiots. The Dark Norseman, $2 US. He's no Nazi. He said, I can join and I'm 12% native. Batrakian Phantom, $2 US. Who's the effeminate guy in the glasses?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, you're hiding.
I forgot I can't change camera now while I'm doing this. Boo.
Yep. And so Misty Spitters, $5 US. Andy looks tired. Here is $5 to wake up.
I stood up.
To people who send us these things, sometimes we look tired, but we're always in good shape when we do the show. Personally, at least.
Yeah, I was just laying back because it was going.
Yeah. Valentin, $50 US. Thank you so much. I've read this one. Thank you so much for your donation. LM, $2 US. The Gulf states literally enslave foreign Asians. About Guy Creation, $5 US. It's hard to sound like mentally challenged with a British accent, so this dynamic duo did achieve something tonight. The Crimson Satire, $5 Canadian. Is population decline even an issue, though, with automation on the rise? Good question. Maybe it's a good thing that some populations are slowing down their their dominance of the environment. Ragnat Ulfbird, $5 US. Japan is their ancestral homeland, and they do not have to bring in foreigners to replace themselves. They can leave this land to their grandchildren. Recovery Anonymous, $5 US. Stop trying to flute glorious Japan with the third world. Leave Japan alone. It's a modern utopia. Leave Japan alone.
Yeah.
Valentin, $10 US. These Brits would be perfectly happy with becoming minorities in their homelands and smiling the whole time while telling everyone that at least they are not racist.
All right, Neo Mussolini, $2. If only pop density increased crime, explain Tokyo. Ebola Serial 20 DKK. Your emo hair doesn't hide that nose, David. Sean Taylor, $2. These leftists embody intellectual dishonesty. Innocence Rush, $5. They had an alt-right demonstration in Charlottesville prior to the Unite the Right. Antifa didn't show up. No violence happened. Antifa stirred up at Unite the Right. Torpid Sloth, $5. Drallasta, more like Drew left. Right, Andy? Fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, I was drooling. Fuck yeah. Batchan Phantom, $5. Sherratt has the memory of a goldfish asking a question about A, getting an answer about A, and then asking what it has to do with B. D-War Bucks, $2. Keep talking alt hype, 00, $2. At least we didn't cut their D's off like Arabs did. Mike Thurnovich. Sometimes they just throw me off. Mike Thurnovich, $5. You should create a segment in the beginning where Andy asks questions he thought of on a topic to set the stage of the debate for the layman.
Brilliant idea.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's why they're debating all this crazy in-depth shit, and I'm just like, screen share.
You know,
is this an Asian girl?
This debate could have turned differently if we started with Andy asking to each person on the stream, how do you define race?
Yes. Jet Set Tomato, $5. I talked over you and you didn't hear me, so I win now. David Shitrat, 2018. Recovery Anonymous, $2. You know what? The UK deserves what it's getting. Luke Blight 69, $20. Thank you, man. When JF makes an internet dating profile, what are his settings of the IQ of his ideal lady?
PhD above 120.
Also, by the way,
I used to do that, but I don't do it anymore. I don't believe in high IQ women.
There we go. I heckin' love science, $5. If autistic people aren't cognizant to do adult things like give legal consent, why is David, a diagnosed autistic person, being entertained here? Well, he's autistic.
Wait, is that true? Is that actually true? David he's diagnosed autistic or considers himself autistic?
I'll Google that.
Google that right now.
That would be very interesting because I have been seeing that narrative coming from that sort of side for a long time, and I've personally found it fucking repulsive.
That might make sense for that article.
So if a girl has sex with him, then she's raping him. In his
well, I guess because he can't consent, right?
That's his. Yeah, you can't. All right, fair enough. So he shouldn't be. Okay, cool. He shouldn't be on.
Well, that would explain why he was MGTOW.
Ah, there we go. Hey, okay.
Yeah. He has a tweet saying, "My autism is triggered. David Sherratt confirmed autistic. We have just interacted with someone who was unable to consent to even talking to us."
Oh my god.
It may be criminal, Andy. It may be criminal.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to take advantage of David in that way. We didn't know about his ailment.
Well, now it all really starting to come into place. All starting to make sense, isn't it?
Yeah, shit. Okay, fair enough.
That's why you couldn't respond to anything that Altype was saying. He's autistic.
Oh, fuck.
Well, I mean, according to that sort of side's argument, is that if you're autistic, you have no agency and you can't think for yourself. So, yeah, well, that's consistent, I guess, with their claims.
Damn. That's interesting. D Warbucks, $2, and we're into the ad hominem part of the debate. That's pretty much what happened. A Valentine, $20. These Brits attack JF while at the same time supporting the influx of third world refugees into their own country. Damn wankers, especially the soy male. Now, this is something I wanted to bring up that I was trying to like squeeze in there, but it was just too hard. Everyone was just pouncing everywhere. He was mad about white nationalists because of Charlottesville, right? But doesn't he defend Islam? Like in his viewpoint, there's like a Charlottesville every fucking second weekend in the UK, right?
Well, there's been a
but they use trucks
theory. There's been a theory I've been working on that it has nothing to do with the violence. It has nothing to do with the guns or the feminism. Pick your thing. All it is, it's about how you vote, left or right. So when they go, oh, this evil white nationalist ran over a girl who was standing in the middle of the street in Charlottesville, it's nothing compared to the 50 people that were ran over in Nice. It's all how it leans to the left or to the right.
But that's a little bit even, no offense, simplistic in that it is more generally just a tribalism of human nature that we go towards our in-group people that are more similar to us, and we go away from people who are dissimilar to us, which would prove like a lot of the things, and we have shown through consistent social science data, which doesn't real though, that how a group processing works, how social identity works. And I guess you got to throw that shit out because that's social science, and it will never account for 100% of variance.
Fucking all right.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
There we go. Batrin Phantom, $5. Sherratt can't win on the field of ideas, so moving on to the shit flinging like a small-minded sore loser he is. Jet Set Tomato, $5. Jean the Rat Stick Francois. Sean Tyler, $5. It was real in my mind. These people are garbage. 00, $2. Please sue Sherratt. Producer Chris, $20. The courts in America have found hate speech to be free speech. Hence, legally, hate speech doesn't exist anymore. However, YouTube still penalizes hate speech, ergo free speech. Should YouTube be sued for violating this? Being a private corporation, though, or company, doesn't that make them immune to that?
Yeah, there are discussions about making these companies public utilities, which would allow to apply the First Amendment. It would be awesome, but we're not there yet.
That would be awesome, yeah. BM, $5. These two Brit rejects reflect why the UK is going down the drain. Garm, 93, €50. Ryan, you read this before, right? I'm sure you did.
I don't think so.
Oh, no? Ryan was a constant on YouTube for the last decade. It seems,
oh, yeah, I did.
Yeah, you did, yes. Thanks, Garm. Man, you fucking throwing money at us.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it, man. And everyone out there. And remember, hit like if you enjoy. Also, Aiden Paladin and Snatcher Says have awesome channels. I will link them.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Go check them out. No, they're awesome. Happy to
me too.
Yeah. Eric 100 sec. When the leftists lose the argument, he has to rely on slander and character assassination instead. What a surprise. Absolutely pathetic. Dave Bigger, $5. That ending was AIDS. Calling someone a pedo and threatening a video, then bailing is shit tier. One of the lowest things I've seen, to be honest with you. Bring that up in the beginning if you're going to bring it up so the person has time to fucking explain themselves.
Yeah, and I like the strategy of adding a little element to your argument in the concluding statement, just to tease, just to open to a new thing. But to accuse someone of a crime is absolutely ridiculous. I've never seen such lack of class.
Bring the, like, if you're going to bring it up, you better have the evidence with you, not go, well, you'll see. Yeah. That's, because there's no point.
That's extortion, literally. It's illegal, it's blackmailing.
Yeah. Martin Evanson, 50 knock. This is what happens when you have no arguments and get absolutely BTFO'd by white nationalists. You have to resort to these pathetic personal attacks. Neil Mussolini, $5. JF, I work with court cases and allegations every day, and you are correct. Allegations do not equal proof. Court will decide in the end. Good luck, doctor. Garb 93, again, €20. Jeez, this entire debate was an OP for them. Kraut passed the torch to Sherratt. Baya 000, $2. Just a bunch of helicopters. Reality Quake, $10. I'm an electronic musician and I wrote a song you guys might like called Extra White. Only video on my page. So that's Reality Quake. If you want to read on.
All right, so we have white slave owner, $5 Australian. Andy, I remember not so long ago you were very much against this race realism. Oh, how the worm has turned down the right path. The force is with you. Were you ever against race realism? I don't think so.
Yeah, man. That's how this whole shitstorm started. Remember, I wasn't against it. I didn't know about it, and Kraut was on my show back in the day, and he was the one.
I remember this, Andy. My channel was very small. I don't think we had talked yet, and I had tweeted you like 8 times. Like, you are so wrong about the things you're saying. And you're like, no, Andy. It's fine.
Well, I think.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I think more accurately is that the term race realism has become so conflated and conflicted with things that it doesn't mean. Meaning, this is what I've never understood about this. To recognize that race is real to me is not really a question, because we can make all kinds of empirical observations about this. And not only can we make observations from, and I hate to use the term common sense, but you can make very obvious observations, but there's also tons of data that support it from more, political sort of standpoints or critical standpoints. So the fact that this was a question has always confused me. I think the term race realism is just a new way of saying racist, which is also a very silly term, I think. And Andy, I don't think you would ever, based on old things that you've recorded,
I always knew race
you didn't think that, like, Asians aren't real. Asians are the same thing as black people in every way, right?
But I think we're going against Rage After Storms. Her sources use like things saying like black people don't have abstract thinking. Like, I was going after the extreme things, and then Kraut and Jeff Holiday came in and sort of bent like the idea that race isn't real, which I never agreed with. I know black, white, Asian. Like I said, I know I'm generalizing it because you see an Asian chick at the mall, she could be Japanese,
well, that's how taxonomy
Chinese,
works.
Korean, exactly. So I'm just being like, but now I know, okay, like that was retarded.
In that particular
thing, race is not real because you think it may sound racist. It's what you do with the information.
Exactly.
If you kill a black guy because you're like, race is real, let's kill the blacks. All right, you're using it for racism. But saying race is real is not racist.
But if you look at a black guy and go, he's probably a criminal, that's okay. I'm kidding, by the way. It's a joke.
But
noticing the phenotypical difference is not the issue. It's what you do with the information.
Exactly.
I think it was just, Rage After Storm's video was poorly constructed, and
there's like a few parts,
so
that's where I was.
That's what blew this off. But I don't think that at any point most people who have been legitimate and have been realistic with themselves and with their beliefs would be able to say that race is not real in any way.
Exactly. That's
or that there's no realistic or rational basis for what we consider colloquially to be race.
Mm-hmm. All right, where were we?
We are at Matus Tironi, $20. Great show tonight, by the way. Base JF, as always. Iron Shadows, $2 US. What the fuck, Andy? Now I'm getting the sniffles.
My throat
Toxic
too
Max,
is destroyed, dude. My throat is gone. I need to sleep.
Jean-François Gariepi and Andy Warski are destined for fill in the blank. AIDS, hot homosex in the bathtub.
Oh no! They're gonna clip that stuff.
Oh, yes, I love it.
No!
Yes,
Yeah,
2 pound JF.
on top.
Say, that's a man, baby, with a British accent. That's a man, baby. I don't know how to do the British accent. Maybe I do. I know how to do certain words like cunt.
None of that was
I can't
British.
do that.
Yeah.
I can't do that, mate. Go ahead, Andy.
Where were we? Sorry.
Adam Bolt, $5 US.
Adam Bull. Oh, Jesus Christ! She looked at me and said, "Oh, after you know, you're wearing 2 different kinds of socks." I said, "I know, but they're the same to me because I just go by thickness." Oh, okay, that's a metaphor there, simile. Elizabeth Ward, $5. I was getting so hyped in this debate, I accidentally kicked my cat off my couch. Haha, thanks for giving my fiance another reason to laugh at me, lol.
Reminder that Warski Live is dangerous for animals.
Yes.
Be careful whenever you watch the show.
Mm-hmm. Garm 93, Garm 93, €2. Just checking out YouTube censoring, and then, oh my God, I'm not gonna say that one. It's a combination of words. Dave Bigger, $5. Okay, it's Nick Hiked, Alaska. I'm allowed to say that, right? Because it's not a real Nick Hiked. Is that racist if it doesn't exist?
I think it is.
Okay.
I think by Anita Sarkeesian's definition of racism, even a fictive racist statement would be racist.
So if I walk up to a Jewish black person, especially in the mall, and went, "Hey, Nick Kiked," that'd be like, "Yo, you
kind of racist.
You just invented.
Come off Shabbat.
You got some fucking balls, nigga, calling me on Shabbat. You about to
Yeah,
call up my Jewish niggas.
Dave Bigger, $5. It shames me to share a name with a man who doesn't use shampoo. Oh, Dave. Hey, excuse me. Hey man, nice shot. $5. Money to help talk Black Drallasta off another flat Earth ledge. White slave owner, $2. Alaska only has a beard to hide his weak chin. Down forward punch, $5. V's nuts. Secular Odinist, $10. Baked Alaska should steal David's girlfriend any day of the week, assuming Dave is not gay. Eric Coda, $2. JF, new name, JF Wright. Eric Coda, $5.
JF is technically correct.
There you go. Eric Coda, $5. Ethno State needs another thing to bind it together. Other than race, religion, culture, new language, something to think about. Eric Coda, $2. Leave hentai land alone. Kane, £5. Best thing about being Scottish is no one but Celts want to live in Scotland, Ethno State forever. By the way, I like how I taught yesterday or the other day, I taught, what's his name, Halsey, what hentai was.
Oh yeah, and he was shocked on Twitter learning about.
You give him the Kurt Eichenwald
Yeah, you gave him
rundown?
the Kurt Eichenwald.
Yeah, no idea. He thought tentacle porn. I'm like, no, everything. I convinced him to watch. No, remember I convinced him that hentai was a form of anime he should watch. He's like, all right, I'll check it out. I'll check it out.
Originally, he thought it was not porn at all, and he was making statements like, "Oh, I'd watch it with you." And
I'm like, have you heard of Futa? He's like, nah. I'm like, you'd love it. I'm like, you should watch Bible Black. He's like, all right, yes, send me the link.
All right, I'll put it on my watch list.
You changed that poor man's life. He's an older gentleman. You can't introduce him to something that old.
He was in shock, you think? Oh my God. Secular Odinist, $2. Hey JF, what's your opinion on the JQ? Jesus Christ, that's a lot.
So long.
I think we have enough shows. Like, and there's a million. Jesus. Pop TV, $5. Just
JQ.
You don't have a thing.
Pop TV, just take my money and follow me on Twitter. You snow monkey. Okay, I will. Sorry, Pop TV, I will. Mike Thurnovich, $5. JF, would you say Ryan has gotten better at debates over the course of Wartsky Live, or was his first outing just as bad? Just bad compared to libertarian this and this.
R-Type has gotten really better, and I've been talking to R-Type I think a year and a half ago the first time. I'm not sure, but he got better and better because originally R-Type has lost a lot of debate against people who were less intelligent than him, but he was too autistic, and now he's learning the whole social aspect of debate. It's beautiful to see.
Ericoda, $5. Should the U.S. invade Africa in order to make room for the future American, Europeans, African colonization? Ericoda, $5. There are three great civilizations: West, whites; Middle, Caucasian, Middle Eastern, and East Orientals. LM, $2. Sinatra's narrative is really good. It's polarizing. Sinatra?
I didn't feel Sinatra was polarizing.
I don't think I'm polarizing, but thank you for the compliment and calling it good. I try to inject just the common sense thought from a right-leaning perspective. It's subjective, sure, but it depends where you go.
I like when I read a super chat that insults someone, and I'm like, all right. They're like, well, okay. Valentine's, $20. When white people do well, they are accused of privilege. When they do evil, they are labeled as inherently wicked. However, the same logic is never applied to any other people who commit evil and fail in any way. I'm going to disagree with this statement. In my opinion, there are people who could label anyone and go fucking insert whatever, right? I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, he's talking about the fact that it's taboo to be racist against anyone in the media, except white people. If you say if you make a movie where the white guy is a loser and he's a white heterosexual guy, you're not going to be accused of racism.
I thought he just meant in people's logic and thinking. But yeah, in media, taboo. If you're doing the word taboo, fair enough. Okay. Yeah. I'm just thinking, yeah, there are people I know go, oh, fucking Indian people. I've had enough of them.
And since this is, I think, the second biggest audience I've ever talked in front of, I don't use the Sinatra likeness because I like Frank Sinatra. That's actually my name. People keep yelling at me to act like Frank Sinatra. Okay. No, that's just my name.
Yeah. Hey,
like my real last name is Sinatra.
Oh, by the way, remember how
Good
I said
thing.
I may be
I thought
black?
I was about to start singing.
Remember what I said?
Nobody needs that.
No, please.
Okay, let's just go on here. Base deplorable, $5. Hey, hail Ryan Falk. Down forward punch, $20. Replace Sinead with Venti. So I should break up with my girlfriend and date Venti. We'll see what happens. I'll ask Sinead what she thinks about that. Down forward punch. I'll tell her your email too to email you. Ericoda, $2. The white ethno state needs to adopt Southern drawl. Quebec, $20. Always entertaining. Love your show. Nice to see you, man. Ericoda, $5. On Warski Live, animals hurt. That's why there is barely any.
Don't read that, Andy. Don't read it.
He says there's barely any black people on the show. I mean, he makes a point. There's barely any. We should have a show as all black people. Just go with our like just fuck the scales up. 1 week only black people.
Yeah, and in any case, don't read the super chat. It is racist.
Okay. I thought about it anyway. Ericoda, $2. Accept my money, dipshits. LM, $2.
We got it.
Polarizing because it forces people into a binary choice. That's right, bitch. Valentine, $2. JF is right. That's what I meant. Yeah, no, fair enough. As soon as I heard, and Darush Ashkenai, $5. Nice show, guys. Real entertaining. Also, I just wanted to that Persians, like, look, I know it sounds like I suck at reading half the time, but a lot of these sentences are like really backwards.
Yeah.
And dyslexic. So I'm sorry, okay?
I just wanted to add that.
Yeah. Also, I just wanted to add that Persians, Iranians, are the only Iranians, whites, and snow monkeys, and will always be snow monkeys. All right, let's settle down there. What a show today! What a fucking show!
It was also. It reminded me of some of our best shows, and that's exactly what we need to produce.
Yeah. I like having the longer breaks in between the shows now that we have like a pretty set schedule, like the Monday. Oh boy, I already forgot. Monday, Thursday, Friday, Sunday.
We've actually been violating our schedule, but our planned schedule is Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday.
So Tuesday is fucking AIU.
Oh my God.
I switched it for you because I was like, oh wait, you said no Mondays. All right. AIU, I'm going to be tweeting about this all fucking weekend. And I'm sure AIU will, with a stuttering.org fucking ad after he mentions it, like you always, piece of shit.
And how about a relaxed stream on Sunday? And the Thursday show is the guest of the smart and sexy guy.
Smart and sexy? What?
Well, the author of the book Smart and Sexy will be talking about...
I thought you said we're having a guy on who's smart and sexy. I'm like, JF, calm
he's
down.
probably not smart and sexy since he wrote a book about being smart and sexy.
Yeah, because if you're smart and sexy, you just roll with it.
You wouldn't write a book about it.
You wouldn't have time. Your dick's just getting sucked all fucking night. By the way, hit like if you enjoy. One more donation here. Reality Quake, $20. Basketball Americans, and thank you for that huge donation, by the way. Basketball Americans consistently score lower on mechanical reflex tests where environmental factors have no impact on results. Also, listen to my fucking song. Reality Quake. Go on Reality Quake. You see it there. Also, Sinatra. What's your new channel?
Oh, which one is it now?
It is Sinatra Silenced.
Okay, Sinatra on his, fifth channel?
11th.
Yeah, fifth.
Fifth fucking channel. Sinatra Silenced.
No. I'm sorry. Fourth.
What's the next one? Sinatra fucking in the ground?
The next one, I'll take after Kraut and call it Sonata Speaks.
In Kraut's quote apology video, he called him Sonata Speaks. So that's what I've been pulling for.
You got me confused with the sound.
Honestly, I really hope your channel stops. Like, we'll have you on the show and I'll promote you more. Let's get.
I'm trying to be a good boy.
Let's get Sinatra Silenced big and help him out there. And Aiden Paladin, I'm gonna put their links right after the show's done.
Thanks,
so
Andy.
if you refresh, you could see those. And JF, as always, peace out.
Yeah, good talk to you.